I'm the chief of the Denham Springs Fire Department in Louisiana. We're about 70 miles northwest of New Orleans, Louisiana. We were right on the edge of the storm. We received very little damage here, some tree damage, but not very much damage. So we were the lucky ones. We just got a narrow miss. We've been trying to help out the folks of the New Orleans and the surrounding areas as much as we possibly can. We're a small department with about 25 paid personnel here, and it's really been tough on our department because we have such a big influx of people to take care of right here at home, but we also have people in other parts of the state are in need of our services, so we've been trying to spread ourselves around as much as we can. Here's some of the stuff that we're running into when we get down in the New Orleans area. We've got several signs here that we've been taking off of doors and stuff. Sometimes you ride up there and there's no humans at all to be found, but a lot of dogs, a lot of animals have been displaced. Now and again, this is some of the signs that you look for when you go around on the rooftops and stuff, or in a boat, you'll see this hanging around. This is all they could get out, and this was stuck out a window in an apartment. We actually rescued these people and got them to safety. I have never been so overwhelmed with the outpouring of a community and a country as I have been with this. And we have got help from all over the world that has come in here to help us with this crisis. People have really stepped up to the plate. I'm real proud, especially of my own community, the way they have stepped up and brought in all the people that didn't have homes and let them live in their homes and provide shelter and food and all the necessities for life right here in my own community. We've had people from other parts of the country that have stepped up real well. One of my firefighters' uncles, he donated a boat, a couple of boats and a couple of motors for us to go down and do rescue work with. And they will be in use tomorrow morning, just as soon as we get them home. Our churches here have went over and beyond what I would have ever imagined that they could have, because we have thousands of people that are living here now or have been placed in homes here that have a nice place to live. And like I said again, I could never say it enough how proud I am of my community that I live in, because they have really stepped up to the plate and done what they should do.
Okay.
People here have donated so much stuff that it's just unbelievable, the outpouring here. I had a lady just stopped just then. She has 2 mothers and 3 children that she's fixing to load in her personal van and fixing to take to Houston, Texas, because the rest of their families are in shelters in Houston. She was asking, said she was a little short on money, could I help her? And yes, I'm going to help her from donations that I've got. That's what we're going to do with that. We're going to buy gas for her to go to Houston to take those people to their family. So we've had all kinds of stuff donated. Mentioned the boats a while ago. We got saws, stuff like that. All kinds of hammers and axes and stuff like that to do rescue work with that we didn't have, and stuff that we probably would never use here, but in the situation we're in down there, it becomes a very valuable tool. My hats go off to the New Orleans Police Department. I will say that, because I'm standing here doing an interview, but I'm not the heroes. My guys aren't. It's the guys that are New Orleans and their fire department. I've seen those guys down there that have been working for 10, 12 days straight and haven't had a day off. I cannot imagine how anyone could care or work so into such conditions, knowing that their own family, they've lost their families and their homes, and be so dedicated to the job. I can't imagine how somebody could do that, and I hope to the good Lord that I never get put in that situation, because I don't want to know. So my hat's off to both the NO PD and NO Fire Department, because that's the real heroes in this. Those are the real heroes. For years, we've always heard how New Orleans would, if you were to have a Category 4 or Category 5, it was always understood that if it hit in just exactly the right place, that New Orleans would flood. This was no surprise. We've trained for this. We knew this for years, that it could happen. Wasn't exactly sure that it would, but as it turned out, when that levee broke, the city did actually flood. All the planning that we done for years went right out the window. No one really had any idea who was in charge. And I said earlier that my hats go off to the New Orleans Police Department and the New Orleans Fire Department, because they are the guys that are in charge down there. All this equipment and everything running around and people running around, those are the people that are on the ground. They're the guys that's going house to house and getting these people out of there. That if it wouldn't be for them, those people just wouldn't get out at all. I mean, they know where they live, they know the people that are there, and we've basically just give our services to them, because they're the real guys that are on the ground doing the job. Not all this helicopter and media and all that you see around here. That's the guys that deserve the credit, because they've done a real wonderful job handling a very bad situation down there. That is real bad in this part of the country is that our population overnight went from about 8,000 to like 30,000. Estimates are in Baton Rouge that their population went from about 400,000 to 750,000 overnight. Stores here are having a real tough time even keeping bread and milk and the necessities of life on the shelf. Trips that used to take 15 minutes now take an hour and 15 minutes. Traffic here is unbelievable, and I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. If we don't get some help down here on roads and infrastructure, our schools are jam-packed and were before the storm, and now it's even worse because we've taken a lot of the students that were in evacuation centers and all, and we put them in our schools, and our classes are like really overcrowded right now. So,
what do you estimate the time frame of these people, or at least some of them, being able to move back into their old neighborhoods?
I'm going to say probably 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that a lot of this will take 6 months to get some of them. Some of them will never go home. They're completely relocated. They know they'll never have a place to go back to, because I know some of the areas that my guys have been working in is some of the poorest parts of New Orleans, and I seriously doubt that they'll rebuild those. I mean, they weren't really that great a shape anyway. Now, what that they may go in and build government housing in their place, but as far as ever replacing those buildings, I seriously doubt that they will. So those people will have to find somewhere to live, and I don't know whether they'll be in our state or they'll end up moving somewhere else. I really don't know what the plan is with that. The yellow at, and you'll see how the river makes a bend right here. That's the reason they call it the Crescent City. Well, this is the part that's flooded between the lake and the crescent right here. It's real bad. That's where your levee broke, right out here, right on this little edge right here on 17th Street Canal, right there, and it flooded the whole city. Also had a little breach in the, I want to say right here, caused a little flooding on the backside, but that's where they've been doing most of the rescue work, is right there, in that little section of there. This is St. Bernard Parish. The eye of the hurricane went right across here, just like this. And this city, this right here is just about totally destroyed right here. A lot of wind damage, a lot of flooding. This much of Plaquemine Parish is all underwater. Probably 2/3 of it's up completely underwater. This is your Slidell area where you was talking about going tomorrow. That's extremely bad. Pretty well between the interstate and the lake. You can see where the interstate passes here. That's total destruction between the lake and the interstate. Complete. That was storm surge. They said they had probably 30 foot of storm surge there. And these are the forgotten about people here. This was extremely tore up. They're estimating that 80% of the timber in this area right here is completely gone, and road access is almost nil. We got people here that they can't get to their houses, and they're not getting any supplies, any help other than a few local people that's going up and helping them. So this is an area here that needs a lot of help right here is in Washington Parish. That's all I got to say about that one.
I'm Cliff Allman with the Denham Springs Fire Department. Started the Friday before the hurricane hit. New guy.
So this is quite an awakening, quite a new experience that you didn't expect by joining this fire department, did you?
No, I didn't, but it's been a good, bad experience, if that makes any sense. Taught me a lot of stuff and opened my eyes to a lot of things. But I hate you have to learn it this way. Here's some pictures of us. Okay. See, this is some of the first areas we went into. The water, whenever you started out, the water wasn't but a couple inches deep, so a lot of the big boats couldn't get in there. So we had 12 and 14-foot bateaus. And you'd have to push them a ways down the road before you could actually get in them and go. Okay. See, this is some of the first areas we went into. The water, whenever you started out, the water wasn't but a couple inches deep, so a lot of the big boats couldn't get in there. So we had 12 and 14-foot bateaus. And you'd have to push them a ways down the road before you could actually get in them and go. So we'd push our boats most of the way until we could get them in deep enough water to float. And a lot of times we'd have to go through there and actually put the people in the boat and walk behind them and push. Heck, most of us had hip waders and stuff like that on. And then some of these areas you'd get into is actually, kind of sad. You'd see not just people, but dogs and animals, and a bunch of them just left stranded. Heck, ended up bringing one home with me.
What do you call him, Cliff?
We call him Big Easy.
It's great.
He got lucky. He's real lucky. A lot of them just are abandoned down there. But a lot of these pictures you see buildings flooded all the way up. You'd pass over them and you'd see cars underwater. You'd have to watch for antennas so the boat wouldn't hit the cars a lot of times. And some of these pictures you'd pass and there'd be a bunch of buildings burning, falling down. It looked kind of like a war zone down there, actually.
And what is it? Just up here.
You can see a lot of times. Okay. And then right here, see a lot of people down there, they'd go around just hollering at the houses, is anybody in there, is anybody in there? Then they'd go on. But when we came to this area, they told us we were wasting our time. They said it's done been cleared 4 times. They said there's nobody left. But one of the guys happened to see. Okay. And then right here, see a lot of people down there, they'd go around just hollering at the houses, is anybody in there, is anybody in there? Then they'd go on. But when we came to this area, they told us we were wasting our time. They said it's done been cleared 4 times. They said there's nobody left. But one of the guys happened to see. Okay. And then here, we went into this area. They had told us it's been cleared 4 times. They said there's nobody in there. But a lot of guys said, y'all probably wasting y'all's time. Well, they'd go through just hollering, is anybody in there? Is anybody in there? And when there nobody answered, they called the area cleared. Well, they cleared it 4 times. One of our guys happened to see somebody duck back in a window. So we went in there and we started looking for people hollering. We ended up getting, I want to say 6 or 8 people out of that. It's apartments. But we started busting down doors, and we found an elderly lady. She is 82. She is wedged between the tub and the toilet. And we ended up having to actually break the toilet to get her out. And that lady, she wouldn't have made it through the night. She wouldn't even made it probably till nightfall. I mean, we were putting water and fluids into her as soon as we found her. And we had her out of there. But that's the kind of stuff we ran into.
And of course, you guys are also paramedics, correct?
Yeah, we're also, EMTs and stuff like that. So, but with us, the New Orleans Police Department, they loved us down there because we weren't scared. We had hip waders on. We'd get out of the boats. We'd bust down doors. We'd talk people out. Some people, they'd say, no, we ain't leaving our thing. We might stay there 30, 45 minutes talking them into leaving just because they don't realize how toxic the water was, stuff like that. And a lot of people wouldn't even take the time to talk to them. But, we went down there. A lot of people, I guess, I don't know if this is getting into political stuff, but, okay. And then here, we went into this area. They had told us it's been cleared 4 times. They said there's nobody in there. A lot of guys said, y'all probably wasting y'all's time. Well, they'd go through just hollering, is anybody in there? Is anybody in there? And when there nobody answered, they called the area cleared. Well, they cleared it 4 times. One of our guys happened to see somebody duck back in a window. So we went in there and we started looking for people hollering. We ended up getting, I want to say 6 or 8 people out of that. It's apartments. But we started busting down doors, and we found an elderly lady. She is 82. She is wedged between the tub and the toilet. And we ended up having to actually break the toilet to get her out. And that lady, she wouldn't have made it through the night. She wouldn't even made it probably till nightfall. I mean, we were putting water and fluids into her as soon as we found her. And we had her out of there. But that's the kind of stuff we ran into.
And of course, you guys are also paramedics, correct?
Yeah, we're also, EMTs and stuff like that. So, but with us, the New Orleans Police Department, they loved us down there because we weren't scared. We had hip waders on. We'd get out of the boats. We'd bust down doors. We'd talk people out. Some people, they'd say, no, we ain't leaving our thing. We might stay there 30, 45 minutes talking them into leaving just because they don't even realize how toxic the water was, stuff like that. And a lot of people wouldn't even take the time to talk to them. But, we went down there. A lot of people, I guess, I don't know if it's getting into political stuff, but a lot of people would go down there for show. We went down there to actually save people and pull them out, and we weren't worried about all that. A lot of people would go down there for show. We went down there to actually save people and pull them out, and we weren't worried about all that. So we'd go down there, and we'd get out of the boats, we'd wait up there. A lot of people would just ask them if they wanted to leave. They'd say no, and then people would leave. But we'd get out, go in there, try talking them out. Sometimes it'd take us 30, 45 minutes to talk them out. But then again, it seemed like a lot of people would go down there for show. But when we went down there, we would go down there to get the people out. We weren't worried about all of those stuff. So we ended up doing really good down there.
And I'm sure, we were very well appreciated. And, you saved a lot of lives because you said it had been cleared 3 or 4 times
Oh, yeah.
prior to that.
Yeah, they'd tell us, this area's clear, nobody's in here. So, and they had this guy, you can see him, his name was Melvin Wheat. He organized a lot of this, got a lot of us guys together. He pretty much got all the contacts, everything, got us down there. Heck, all we were doing was the manpower. That guy right there, he set up a lot of it. He did a lot of work into this.
And he's with the New Orleans Fire Department?
No, he's with the Denham Springs Fire Department.
Oh, great.
He's a captain. So we'd go down there, and we'd get out of the boats, we'd wait up there. A lot of people would just ask them if they wanted to leave. They'd say no, and then people would leave. But we'd get out, go in there, try talking them out. Sometimes it'd take us 30, 45 minutes to talk them out. But then again, it seemed like a lot of people would go down there for show. But when we went down there, we would go down there to get the people out. We weren't worried about all of those stuff. So we ended up doing really good down there.
And I'm sure, we were very well appreciated. And, you saved a lot of lives because you said it had been cleared 3 or 4 times
Oh, yeah.
prior to that.
Yeah, they'd tell us, this area's clear, nobody's in here. So, and they had this guy, you can see him, his name was Melvin Wheat. He organized a lot of this, got a lot of us guys together. He pretty much got all the contacts, everything, got us down there. Heck, all we were doing was the manpower. That guy right there, he set up a lot of it. He did a lot of work into this.
And he's with the New Orleans Fire Department?
No, he's with the Denham Springs Fire Department.
Oh, great.
He's a captain.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna sing.
Okay.
And right here was the map in the Incident Command Center, and it had blue lines showing where they were searching today, and the red lines were where the primary search was completed, where all the areas he had been into and already had it cleared. And then sometimes we'd get specific addresses of people from calling in and stuff like that, and we'd go back into these areas and get them. But that's how they did a really good job in keeping all of it separated and lined out.
Okay.
And right here was the map in the Incident Command Center, and it had blue lines showing where they were searching today, and the red lines were where the primary search was completed, where all the areas he had been into and already had it cleared. And Then sometimes we'd get specific addresses of people from calling in and stuff like that, and we'd go back into these areas and get them. But that's how they did a really good job in keeping all of it separated and lined out.
Hi, my name is Craig Roberts. I'm a professional with Denver Springs Fire Department. I also volunteer for District 4 Fire Department out of Walker, Louisiana. My main objective for this storm that we had was we had shelters up for some of the refugees that come in or evacuees. Where our fairgrounds in Livingston was more like a distribution center. We had everything from 10 to 15 trailer loads from FEMA with water and food, and we had to distribute them out to the other shelters in the parish. We had to make sure that our local residents also that was without power, without water, also was able to reap from this. And we had several places around here. It was more rural. They were on their own water well system, and electricity went down, their water went down. And they had to boil their water and all that good stuff. So we provide them with some clean drinking water and some food. Of course, we got the MREs in. We also handed those out. And the parish is pretty much getting back on track now. But a lot of us are going back to New Orleans and helping the people over there and trying to help them kind of get back on track over there too. So that was pretty much my job here, this whole ordeal here. Definitely, this is the worst I've ever seen. Because I'm 33 years old, and in my 33 years, this is the worst I've ever seen. My efforts, like I said, was making sure the refugees in the parish was taken care of with shelters, places to sleep, things to eat and drink. This will be my first trip back to New Orleans to see exactly what's going on. A lot of our other guys here, 4 or 5 of them's been going for 3 or 4 days, and it's pretty rough over there. It's mine. It takes a toll on the mind. It's something. This is something that hopefully we'll never see again, but I'm pretty sure we probably will the way our hurricane season goes around here. Yeah, the New Orleans Fire Department is putting up some of their room and board for us to stay. The Army has like a tent city out there. A lot of people stay on the interstate still. A lot of the organizations have actually made a little rescue city itself where the command post and all that's been taken care of. Most of the rescuers that come in, they check in there. If they want to stay during the night or during the day, they're able to stay, like I said, at the local fire department. And they've made room for them. They know they're there to help, and they're not going to shoo them away by any means.
They had no contact with the outside world unless they were lucky enough to have a battery-operated radio. They think they're in a flood. They think the water's going down. And you tell them, say, hey, the water's not going down for 30 to 45 days. That big old lady said, oh, I'll get my stuff.
Louisiana picked one up in Metairie. We've been all over downtown New Orleans. This was within 2 miles of the command post while I quit last week. Whenever it was.
Saturday.
I don't remember what day it was. He went down and there was a nurse, 50-year-old nurse, and got off of work the day the hurricane was supposed to come in and hit. Went home, went to sleep. And when she got up, the world had ended. She hadn't seen no contact for 6 days. When they pulled up in the boat and hollered, they said she looked at the window and wanted to know what has happened.
We had a 100-year-old.
Right, like I say, it's
I've been in the room with them too, and
well,
I've seen a lot of it. I've seen a lot of.
That's right.
Somebody making a suggestion, somebody not liking it's over.
Some of these rumors that we hear talking about that the police are going around trying to disconnect, to shut down. I heard a lot of them right there in the OEP command center.
Right. Well,
They're listening to the same rumors about the Walmarts and
that was like the rumors from New Orleans
and all that.
The zoo is still secure. The animals are not out eating people. The Aquarium of America is still secure.
They all died though. All the fish in that aquarium died.
Well, we told it was looking good, and it's a big generator hooked to it now.
That's
so
right.
We're looking at the smoke coming out of the generator.
Since
It's
the
got
first
dark
day
now.
we got there.
Maybe.
Fish died.
Maybe.
The fish died.
They're
The white alligator survived.
That may
Some
be
of
what
the birds in
generator's
there
for.
survived.
Yeah.
There's some animals in
I'm
there
gonna tell you,
survived.
any
The
animal.
zoo animals, the only ones that they lost were 2 otters,
I'll
2
tell you
river
what,
otters.
we're right across
All
the
the
The only
rest
street
thing,
survived.
any animal that touched that water.
We're right across the street from you. In the morning, we'll send somebody over there. If you
We'll
can get
confirm
to
that
the yard,
for you.
we'll look for it.
Okay.
We'll find out.
We're looking at it every day when we
Because
park.
we're
seen those pavilions.
And then right across the street's the World Trade Center.
Well, you do that. You find out, because I'd like to know if all that was misinformation, but it was pretty well documented. This is one of those sites that checks on,
Yeah.
you know, one of those
So
animal
my question
sites.
was about the zoo, and there's enough military around that zoo right now, you ain't getting in there. A lot of them's posted right there, they're in high ground.
Well, they use the reptile house as their own staff evacuation center, so if there was any snakes that got out, then they would have
Right.
been there to deal with them. So
I
I don't
think
think that's a
what
problem.
it's just it's
I think some people are just scared of snakes.
more people are wanting
You
to
wanna go
grab.
down one day, get with us. Same time, I know they said he run out or whatever, I can call and find out. Which one? HEPA A's what you after, ain't it?
HEPA A and B.
And get a B booster.
I need A. If you want, you say you have a trailer going to Bogalusa tomorrow?
Doug's going with one tomorrow to some church over there.
Okay, well, this ambulance is going to different parts of the parish.
Alright,
And Bogalusa, they say it's getting up slowly, but this is for, like Angie, Louisiana.
yeah. I
Franklin,
think the one he's going to is in Sun, I think it is.
If we got anybody wants to go, we
Okay.
got plenty of work.
Alright, well, we'll look and see what we got. Fabian and Mike wanna go back tomorrow.
I had
They up there
contact with
today,
them
so.
back far.
Well,
So do it to it.
alright.
Do you have any idea who else I might, I'll call her about this,
For what? What you looking for?
in case they don't have enough shots.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
give 'em out this
urgent
morning.
care didn't have the HEP A and B, I can tell you. Only place we can get that was LSU fireman training.
I'll call her back.
Here's another one. You can walk right in on time.
Let me make a little phone call,
You
right?
go down there. Go ahead.
And
I'll see y'all later.
Yes, sir. It's lunchtime, son. We don't got you still.
Oh yeah, wait, what was this, Rob? Beef enchilada, who had that?
Which one is that?
Beef enchilada?
That was good, wasn't
That's
it?
mine.
Oh my God.
Jeffro's eating it up.
I didn't know y'all had one.
That's
We didn't get enough MREs sitting on that porch
I
yesterday.
brought a pressure washer, I didn't know y'all had one, so I
Good.
brought mine.
He's downloading pictures on his computer that we took from out there.
Mhm.
I don't know if you can get any shots of them or not.
You want to say anything?
Yeah, that building where that lady was found
Just a sec. Yeah, okay.
was supposed to have been checked 4 times already. And if
And
they wouldn't have went in,
We ended up taking how many people out of that building?
I
5
think 5 people.
out of the building had already been
One
gone
of them
through
said she
4 or
hadn't
5
seen anybody
times.
since the storm, after the storm.
There was one
Hadn't seen
88-year-old lady that was still mobile and everything. She was fine, but she had not seen anyone from the day the storm had hit, and then it was what, 6 days, 7 days later, 7 days, and she had said that she was about out of food. She was down to her last can of canned carrots. But she was 88 years old and heavy cataracts, and she was at the point where she had to be out of there.
She wouldn't have lasted more than a day or two.
Couple. She was a lot better shape than the woman that Frank and Hank found. The woman, that other woman, was in a spot where I don't think she'd have made it a day.
What was her name,
Maybe more than a
Ernestine?
day.
That was the lady that was trapped.
Ernestine?
Ernestine was a trap
Ernestine
lady.
Sims, she was an 82-year-old lady.
Ruthie
had,
Barnes was the
Ruthie
lady.
Barnes.
Ruthie Barnes was the other lady.
Yeah, Miss Sims, she was the one that was trapped, and she was trapped between the toilet and her tub. She had fell sometime either that morning or during the night, and she could not move. So we had to remove the toilet to be able to get some room to pull her out. And once we did that, everything went pretty smooth. Put her on a blanket to carry her out, and then we transferred her over to a boat, and we took her to a landing, and from there we waited on an ambulance for quite some time. NOPD had, which have been great, by the way. NOPD had done a fantastic job.
Canadian TV, so like,
And anyway, we waited quite some time, and Eric was getting kind of irate waiting on the ambulance, so he said, "I'm gonna go find one." So he and Ricky,
Westerman from West Feliciana Parish, another fire district up above us, about an hour away.
they took off, and New York, and the NOPD guy, he said, "That's not the way it's done here in the big city," and said if we can possibly wait 2 or 3, maybe even 4 hours. And he said that's just not the way it's done in big cities. They left out, and just a short time later, here they came back. And I gave him the nickname Cowboy because he rounded them up pretty quick.
Where'd you find them at?
San Diego.
San Diego's used our team out in the parking lot down the road. got to use our team, the ambulance, and we said, let's go.
Waiting on something to do.
Yeah, they were looking for work, actually.
Yep.
And
I let him know that's the way we do it out in the country. So, we got her out, and they airmated her out from there. That was a really exciting rescue for us. We don't get to experience that too much here in Dental Springs.
Yesterday, I don't know how many we pulled out yesterday.
About 8, I heard.
8? More than 8.
It's quite rewarding, isn't it? I
Five
mean,
right
to
there on that one corner. 6. The
Yeah,
two that was
we-
walking in water was about up to here. We was working with a guy named John Jones from Harbor Patrol out of New Orleans. And you can see there was like 2 or 3 blocks down. Looked like balls on the water. And he said, turn down, let's go check on it. And there was 2 guys here. And they was walking arm in arm. Did not want to leave. Wasn't going to leave.
Walter and Sean.
Yeah, Walter and John. Wasn't going to leave, but we finally convinced Walter to leave. All he had on was a pair of shorts that he had on. No shirt or anything. John was mad. John was mad at our guy, John, because he had a couple of dogs, a lizard.
Problem I have,
some kind of other little
right
pet
back to these,
that he
take
had. He
all
wanted to get out.
these and
Well,
these
he couldn't
to
get it
them
all.
on
Trying to get
to a
people out.
CD. I got some in my
Walter leaves with us. John took
I
it
got
off
some on
swimming
here,
back to his
and I got
place.
some on a CD.
About an
Get
hour
them all
later,
in
we had to
one
go to an
place.
apartment. There was an Iranian and 2 black guys in that apartment. The Iranian was the only one that came out
It takes time. It
to
takes
be
time.
seen at all. And he would not talk to Frank and him at all about coming out. Am I right? The Iranian guy said he
No,
wasn't going
Ricky.
anywhere. He was
Ricky.
armed. Oh, Ricky.
Said
He
the only
was
way
armed.
people were going to take him was a shooting.
Right. So anyway, this guy John just come back from Iraq a few weeks ago. If I'm not mistaken. Well, he pulled up and told us to stay in the boat. Went in, did his foreign language thing. Wasn't 15 minutes, but we had him, 2 more guys in the boat and the weapon. And was going out. That was pretty, but when he tells you to stay in the boat, he goes in there and they already told you we heavily armed. Attention getter.
Well, that's another interesting thing about this operation. We were allowed to pack weapons with us. We're just firemen. We're not policemen at all. And of course, we did have a bodyguard with us right there, Patrick Ned. He did a great job getting us there and everything. But that was really interesting to be able to pack a weapon.
I'm Kyle Holt from Reyes Fire Department in New York. We got a call from Eric Salisbury, and he wanted to know if we want to come down to New Orleans and help out. So we were pretty excited to get the opportunity to do that. So I called him up and we got together, and he took work off for a whole week to come down here.
you guys are from the New York Fire Department?
Really, it's very hard.
Aurelia. Now, in relation to New York, it's quite close then?
No, not
No?
too close.
Whereabouts is it?
Central New York area, like
Mm-hmm.
Finger Lakes region. It took us 27 hours to get down here. The truck only goes 62 miles an hour. And it was quite a trip. We came nonstop all the way down. We came down with 7 guys. 4 of them had to leave early for their jobs, but we've been down here since Friday or Saturday.
Truck we came from New York in. We brought all kinds of supplies. We didn't know if we were going to have to be self-contained or whether we'd have the opportunity to stay within our department. So we brought camping stoves and pots and pans and food and coolers full of food, water, Gatorade, all sorts of stuff like that. We also brought some rescue tools, some chainsaws and hand tools like that. So we didn't really know what area we'd be going to or what kind of scenarios we'd run into. So we kind of brought a variety of all the tools.
Just say the same thing again about your name and so on.
Kyle.
Go ahead.
I'm Kyle Holt. I'm from the Reyes Fire Department in upstate New York.
When you were phoned, I suppose you didn't really expect, you didn't know what to expect. So could you kind of tell us about your experience and kind of what you've seen and done in the last few days?
It was pretty shocking when we got in there. I mean, we saw it on TV, and the TV cameras show only so much. When you actually get in there, it's a huge area. We didn't realize that it was such a big, so many miles and miles and miles of just flooding. Trees down, power lines down. We weaved in and out, driving the wrong way up roads all through. It was pretty amazing going in there. The smell was really bad. As soon as, before we even got in towards the city, it really started smelling bad. I'm not quite sure what the smell is, but I'm sure you can imagine what it could be.
There's a lot of unknowns in the water with the trains and stuff that have been derailed and flooded, as well as the ships that were capsized during the storm, as well as the municipal waste in that. So it was really uncertain still what's in the water. And one of the kind of things you might find out that some spots the water was over the top of cars. We had a hard time navigating with the boats, and that was because of the hidden dangers underneath the water. Some extremely graphic images to be found, and a lot of questions: what happened to people and where they might have gone. It's hard to put the puzzle together.
Figure you find so many people on the upstairs levels of two-level apartments, and you wonder what happened to the ones below that. We have a lake where we are. We do some water rescues, but not flood rescue, not something like that. More like people have fallen off of boats or something. This was quite different. We were hitting cars with our boat, and it's because the roofs were fairly sticking out, and it was just, we were running into fences. And actually, when we got to people, we'd see people, and you kind of get excited thinking, well, we found somebody to take them out. A lot of times, they don't want to come out. They say, no, we're fine. And we weren't quite sure what that was about. It was awful strange. You'd see somebody, and they can't leave their house because of the water, it's so deep. And you say, let's go, and they say, no, we don't want to go. We're going to stay here, and we'll be fine. And we try to explain to them, the water's not going anywhere anytime soon. You don't have power, you're not getting power anytime soon, you guys don't have water, you're going to run out of food. And I don't know what they're thinking out there, but yeah. We've had both. Some people you walk in, they're all excited to see, and they say, let's get out of here, we're ready to go. And then the other ones, I don't know.
I guess a lot of older people that find it very difficult to handle the experience.
Yeah, that seems to be it. The younger ones want to stay, the older ones seem to want to go more. And a lot of older ones are more sickly too. I mean, I guess that goes along with being old sometimes, but some of them had even drinking the water, which I can't even imagine drinking that. And they were quite sick from drinking the water already. It said their stomachs hurt them, and they were just telling us how sick they felt. So
how would that work?
There were
most times we had medical with us. We're not per se medical. We would do most of the rescue and get them to a boat, and the boats were bringing them to either ambulances, or if we were out far, we were having them loaded into helicopters and flown out.
All part of New Orleans East. So
what canal broke the flood then?
That's actually coming from the industrial canal. You had a lot of the flood in. There was a break in the industrial canal right about here.
What you're going to do, Rockville Bridge, 4 boats, you're going to go all the way up from one street to the other, then turn around and come back and forth and zigzag. But you want to make sure you get to Monticello, to Carrollton, to Jefferson, and Palmetto. Believe me, it's going to be an 8, 10, 12-hour deal. Maybe 2 hours. But you want to get to those streets. If you start at one, you want to end at the other, not go in between. Okay?
All right, our drop point's going to be like back on the interstate where we were, come back down, maybe the other angle. I'm going to try to go off the wrong side and then come back down and come on this side, hopefully.
Now, there was a rumor that they had another levee break.
Well, you know what, I couldn't even tell you, because as soon as I got home yesterday, I was out. Jefferson, Carrollton, Monticello, and Palmetto.
Patrick, you want to say something about the potential danger down there?
Potential danger that they've been having is basically from people that have stayed and they're looting, and they're wanting to loot more than they're wanting to leave. And so what they've done is they have actually been been shooting at the rescuers as they come. I don't think they've had any incidents in the last day or so, but as soon as Wednesday, they had shots fired at rescuers.
All right, boys, we're moving.
Keep going.
All right, boys, we're moving.
Keep going.
Plenty of it floating around out here.
North, south, east, and west. By the way we're looking at it, we're like in the northwest sector of everything. So what we need to do now is make up three teams of two teams of three, or three teams of two, however you want to do it.
We're going to do the same thing. We're staying half-back together. When we stop for lunch, we'll all be there for lunch. Now, how many radios do y'all have in you three months? We got a radio here.
Now here's one thing that I'd like to do before we get on three teams of two. Foot traffic. So that's going to be foot traffic behind you.
Maybe I'll just say something. Just say something real quick.
Who, me?
Yeah. Okay, now here we are. We're in New Orleans. You can see the floodwaters receded quite a bit. It was up probably 4 or 5 feet yesterday. We're here with the Denham Springs Rescue Team, and we're just searching by boat and by foot in this grid.
Catch that rolling?
So we've just entered this house here looking for survivors. This one's clear or something?
This one's clear. There's nobody in here.
Oh, grenade! So we go straight across the airline. Once you get right on the opposite side of the airline, just on the other side of the airline, to the right, there's a white house. Elevated white house. That you'll see the boats. It's a pickup truck with a mowers and all that inside of it. I know somebody's in there. Now, I don't know if they have the door open or not. Real nice. But see, the only reason why he's not leaving, he's got one dog and he's got a ton of weapons. So, a hunter. So, you know, he's got a good shot if he wants to shoot. And the other one is, once you make the left on the airline, start looking for apartments. 9119. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not the apartments. That's the 83-year-old man. The apartments is actually back this way. That's
The water is very toxic. Most of the firemen are wearing gloves, latex gloves, and I'll be putting mine on shortly. Water is extremely dangerous to come in contact with. We're going to go into an area where there's somebody holed up with dogs and guns, so doesn't want to come out, so we'll see what happens.
Fire department! That's why nobody's down here. Fire department! Fire department!
It's hard to describe the magnitude of this disaster. It's like the whole city now is, you know, like a toxic wasteland, and it's all going to have to be cleaned up. It's going to take a long time. Very, very sad. But there's still people holding out, and hopefully we'll find them today and get them to safety. Helicopter that crashed about 2 days ago. This is
There it is.
I don't know exactly. Located the helicopter again. We don't know the extent of damage or whether there were injuries. It looks possible that you know, that it wasn't catastrophic and there were survivors. As you can hear the stray dogs. There are probably literally dozens, if not hundreds, and stranded in the houses without any food, water for at least a week now.
Make the left and you'll see it. Careful. See 2 doors open on that back stretch. Go for it. Come in, Alan. that'd be good. There's that motel or something. O-1-E-L-T-Z. Fire department! The one that we were told to walk down. What we're looking for is windows. Number 4, windows open.
As you heard Rick mention, we're looking for windows, and of course any kind of response or sign. Have you seen before? There's signs made out of everything, T-shirts, bags, whatever people can get a hold of, and they're writing lipstick or whatever they can get. But it seems that most people are out at this point. Okay, it looks like we can see construction on one of the levees over there. You can see a big gap there. Now, I don't know.
Letting the water out.
Yeah, they're letting the water out. And the water level is coming down very rapidly every day.
Any sign of people may have been staying there? to do?
Hard to describe the smell here. Very pungent. I've been in the water a couple of times, but I'm wearing rubber gloves,
Hey, yo!
as you can see here. And we're right by the train tracks here. I'm not sure what part of New Orleans this is. We're getting pretty close to, there's unfortunately a dead man over there, and he's been there a couple of days. It looks like possible that he was pinned down there when the floods came in. Team certainly isn't gravy duty. This is really hard and tedious work. And they've been out here for 10-12 days without a break. Now we just gone here, come back here from about half an hour ago. The water's already dropped. What would you say, Rick? What, 4 or 5 inches? Something like that? Easy, maybe 12. Yeah. They rescued a couple of parakeets here. No sign of humans so far.
Pipes right there in the road, so they're pumping this out.
Is that what they're doing there, or they just broke it so it's drain over?
I think that's what they're doing. They broke right there as they go through. This railroad track is going to maintain a levee. It's going to keep this side deeper for a while. So what we're going to do now is that that's Monticello right here. See where this levee is? Yeah. We don't go any further than that. So we're starting at this grid. And we will start working our way going back and forth. Now on I'm gonna say Olive and probably somewhere around Olive and Monroe. So big 3-story house, got a ton of dogs, Rots, Dobermans, Chows, all the nice ones.
I'll leave that to us. We got to take care of that.
Let me check something. We got a one place they wanted me to check was on Fort Shea Street, 9400 Fort Shea. One of my captains said that great-grandmother or something like that was there and wasn't leaving. She's like 94.
Remember the address, 9400 Fort Shea.
Let me,
9400.
9400.
10-4. Ask him. I'm making my way to Fort Shea. He told me about a municipal. I think it's 9400 Fort Shea, but I wanted to make sure.
nice back pull. He knows where he's going.
Y'all going this way? We're going this way.
Yes, sir. I'm making my way towards Chase Street. What was that, municipal again?
About 2 or 2.
I already did this work.
Fire department! Fire department! Come out and talk to me! Yeah, see how it's all boarded up?
Yeah, but the back, there's a window open on that side.
Yeah, I know.
Mine just busted when the wind blew something.
Oh, yeah. Hey! Fire department!
There's supposed to be somebody held up in this house. You want to see that again, Rick?
Well, you got all these handicapped buses.
Yeah, Rick was just saying it's old folks' home. It looks like a pit bull, and he's emaciated, and looks like he's on his last legs. No water, no food for a long time. Pretty bad in here. It's like people have been held up in here for quite a while. Was there a bird caught in here? Just going down this hallway here. There's some beds that looked like they were set up here. Here comes the army. Water's low enough for them to patrol the streets now. So I assume it's going to be pretty much the last go at fire rescue teams in the boats. Now Rick doesn't have to haul it because the army trucks got the big horns now.
You'll find a lot of dead people in this neighborhood. All these one-story houses, people who didn't leave, water come up so fast they went in their attics.
Yeah.
I can get out of their attics.
Yeah. You think there's a lot of dead people in their attics?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, these one-story houses are basically a death trap. It doesn't look that bad now, but a few days ago, you know, half of these houses were under.
Fire! Fire department! I'm gonna make an entry on this house. Fire department!
You want help? See if we can knock it in. Okay, they're good. Go around back. Oh, it kind of smells like a petroleum dump here. I'm going around the back of the house. Hopefully, see if we can gain entry.
Fire department! Fire department! We ain't got no fourth entry tools. It's hard to do when you ain't got no tools.
Yeah, sure is.
Help me push. Don't kick it. Fire department! went down some water and it got dry. Lo and behold, right there was a luggage carrier. Kind of like in a hotel, got the high bars on it. We put the boat on that thing, we pushed it down the street, got back in deep water, went to his house, got the old man out, and I whipped him down. I pointed at the old man in front of the boat. And it landed right there in a parking lot at a store. We pushed him right over there and put him on that helicopter. The guy come out of there, he says, "You want us to take him?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "He's paralyzed, his shoulder and his leg on his right side. We'll take him." We helped him into the helicopter.
Wasn't that old lady on 9032
You ain't not ready. You ain't one time. The Air Force one there. Air Force? You may have seen somebody. See you hovering right there. Not through him. If they did, they'd come wave us over there. They did do something today too.
As you can see, the water is getting quite shallow and you'd have to lift up the motor. The water is draining out quite quickly now.
Somebody tell me where you're at. Pretty, but it's got a high port.
We're just taking a break for lunch over here. So it's a pretty amazing experience. It's very toxic. All these houses probably will eventually be bulldozed down. The ones that I've been in have been virtually uninhabitable. It's quite a tragedy. We probably won't see for a long time. Well, it looks like they found some more birds, exotic birds here.
Oh, y'all found some birds too?
Yep. Oh, you got some pretty birds. I wish I could catch like that. I didn't put that damn parrot in there the other day.
All them rookies. Yep, you ain't no shit. That's just what it is, rookie.
This is a little bit step down.
Well, we like to hunker down over here.
Well, you know, you can't eat it, man. That was just a
Found
preview
another
of it.
bird.
Yep.
Now me and Hank, we're accessorizing with the motor, see?
Damn, that's nice.
We're set.
We got power, man.
Now I told him I wasn't gonna tell nobody, but I got to. Hank tossed the crowbar into the boat and it bounced off and went in the water.
My crowbar?
He had to fish it down with the boat.
That's why he wouldn't answer damn radio, man.
We don't have
Yeah,
one.
that's why we don't answer. We got it.
I'm not the only one who knows how to get wet.
Stranded man, and we're just kind of sliding on over there. There he he is.
Man, what you doing up in all this mess?
How you doing? How you doing? Doing all right?
Oh, hell, well, now you get time to stop smoking, isn't it?
Yeah.
No?
I don't think that would be my worst.
To smoke more.
I don't think that would be my biggest concern if I was out here. If I were you, but
What you gonna do, sir?
how you doing?
Well, I might as well get on out of here.
Well, you better.
It's not gonna get any better. And as you can tell, if you think
Well,
about
I was going to come out sooner, but a policeman and guards were together. And I understand this is a rough neighborhood. I lived back here over 20 years.
this is a rough neighborhood?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, well, it can be,
Okay.
you know. But I've been back here 20 years. I ain't had so much as a match taken from me. And the way he threatened was like, if I come outside, I might get shot. See, that makes me leery. So then I went and I stayed inside.
It would make me leery.
Yeah, and then I looked over there, because I can look out at different parts of the house. I looked over there and saw all y'all over there. I said, well, if I'm going to go, this is my safest chance right now.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. You might get shot. I have a feeling as the water goes down, we're going to get more and more looters.
Yeah.
And that's when it'll get dangerous.
But see, they done got just about everybody from there.
Yeah.
And most of these are the Chris, because they're the ones that kept me going. They didn't, people that came by never even offered a bottle of water.
Can you think of any places where it might be some elderly people who couldn't get out, or maybe trapped on second floors? Or
I had told.
I went to the community center. That was a community center.
Right, that's the community center down there.
Yeah, I went through that.
But there's a house down here, and it's leaning toward this way. Looks like it's falling down. The old white guy, he used to, because they're the only two white people that stayed near here.
Right there in that house?
Well, Henry got out. The only thing he couldn't take with him was his dogs. Okay, but he kept telling me that the lady down there, Mrs. I can't think of what her name is. He was saying that she might be still in that house.
Okay.
You know?
Is it a single story house?
I think it's a double story.
Double story.
But you know, she's a very fragile old lady. You see her usually once or twice a week. She passing here walking. You know, she don't mess with nobody. She's just keeps to herself mostly.
Exactly. And they're gonna get you a shelter. And the reason I say you held out long enough is because you got radio in there or TV you been watching? Radio? You know what went on to Centralplex and I'm from
at the
Superdome.
Superdome
and the River Center and all that.
Yeah, well that was.
They got pretty crazy and they hauled all them people off to some other big domes.
Yeah, but you got them. Those are knuckleheads.
Yeah. So now, and that's true, and you're right. But now the small towns are taking them in now. And you may go to a church, or if you got kin out there. When we get you to the pier and they get you, you can call family or whatever. If maybe somebody's worrying on you, worrying about you. You got relatives.
Yeah, well,
outside of New Orleans.
The man that owns that bus. Let's see, that's his new truck. That's our niece's car. That's his brother-in-law's car. Niece's car. Brother's truck. And another car they got there. But see,
pretty crazy.
When they left, I just told them, for them to go ahead. Cause, see, them real crowded places.
Probably not comparable, is it?
Huh?
They said on TV that most of these houses would be cheaper.
Yes. Tear
them down. Rebuild.
Well, that's what I'm going to have to redo that apartment in the back there. Just gut the whole thing and redo it.
I think I put this thing about 20 feet in there. No. If the levees break again, it's going to happen again. So you want to pack a few things? You got a suitcase?
This is it.
You got everything you need, right?
This is it.
Okay.
Huh? Oh yeah, well I had food. I had some food.
And you were okay with water? You had enough water?
That was down to my last jug. That was good.
Look, we got
Just go ahead, sit right there.
military MREs, and we got
Oh.
water over here.
It's been a lot of years since I tasted any of them.
Look, it ain't like it used to be.
Improved.
I got out of the military in '87, and them MREs look, the bag looks the same, but what's inside is totally different.
I never had one of those before, but I just had one now, and it's not too bad. It's probably better than it used to be. They heat up in about 2 seconds.
Oh, they're way better than it used to be. You probably remember, you probably used a P-38 to open your MRE, you open your C-rats.
68 and 69.
That's what I'm talking about. You used a P-38
Yeah.
to eat your dinners. Remember the P-38, the little can opener?
Yeah.
Were you in Vietnam?
Huh?
Were you in Vietnam?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. What's
Brown.
your Robert Brown? So how are you feeling generally?
Oh, I feel good.
Yeah, you look pretty good.
Yeah, well, I've learned how to survive.
Water
Yeah.
dropped fast now.
Huh?
Water dropped pretty quick.
Well, it had dropped lower than this, and then it came back up all of a sudden. But it dropped to the point where, matter of fact, you can see the bottom of the tile. And then all of a sudden, it came back up.
Yeah, we're all taking a lunch break. We're having, we're having to go into houses now. They want us to open the houses up. If it looks like there's a sign of life in there,
Well, that house there, that you had there.
don't look like nobody's ever lived there yet.
No, they had just finished.
Yeah, I,
just finished putting that
I
together.
noticed there's nobody in it. It's just
No.
empty. Yeah.
Well, what's your name?
Robert Brown.
Robert Brown? My name's Ricky. This is, we call it in French, Canada's a freelance.
Canada?
Yeah, I'm from Vancouver.
Vancouver. Yeah, well, a friend of
Nice
mine.
to meet you.
A friend of mine lives up there. Reuben Hurricane Carter.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
That's great.
We grew up in the same neighborhood.
Is that right? Well, of course.
How about Cherry Street?
That's like a lawnmower shop over there?
Or how about John Valerie?
Yeah, I know him.
John Valerie? You know where he might be?
No. Like I said, a lot of them were staying around down there on Edinburgh by that new house where it was double floor.
Right.
But then,
Where all the dogs at?
yeah. But then they went to talking about those guardsmen was talking about shooting and carrying on. So those dudes, I didn't see them no more because that's what kept me going. They used to bring me stuff.
Call him up.
You don't need knives.
I used to drive that bus up there every week for a while. And man, that's before they improved it. But now I heard they done improved it.
It's like
It used to be like this here.
Inspector for Parish up there.
It's not quite as crooked anymore, but it's still there. You follow the ridges up there, up there. They straighten some of them out.
Huh?
I said, go cut a piece of your neighbor's roof off, put it on yours. He ain't
No,
home.
I can't do that. Thank you.
Ain't no good now, is it?
Let's start all over again.
Yeah, well, it's not the point of starting all over, but you know, that car was given to me. That one that's covered there, that's an '88. Just about everything underneath that hood is new. I bought that piece by car.
Delta 98?
No, it's an '88 Max. Yeah, the only thing I needed done was the interior.
Robert Brown? You know any of the True Roads?
No, I don't know by then.
What's your address?
8823.
8823 Fauché?
That's Lewis, right? The same name you see on that coach right there. Yeah, I stayed that in the little apartment that's in the back. Right in the back there. They adopted me about 20 some odd years ago.
Yeah.
Ah, you think I'm joking?
No.
I came looking for a place to rent. And he had that little apartment open.
they've treated me like family. If you could just go pick a family, I'd have picked them. Because they treated me that good. Before
Did they make it out all right?
Huh? All of them is gone already. But there was a few things that needed to be shored up a little bit around there. So, like I said,
Water caught you by surprise?
I can swim.
Not in this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's
He
so
was
toxic.
swimming. Ain't no big deal.
Oh yeah.
When push comes to shove, you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
And it may be a little nasty, but
Yeah. Yeah, you can get through it if you need to. Yeah.
That's it. All I need to do is either get down there or head all the way back that way to the track.
So where you think you're going to head, Robert? Where do you have family? Have any family in?
I don't know exactly where any of them located at right now, but I'll find out once I start calling.
They would be maybe in other parts of Louisiana or Texas, Houston, or anything like that?
Hopefully in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
he got another bus that he'd have probably picked up out of Baton Rouge.
What about any of your you have any brothers or sisters or anything like that?
My brother got killed several years ago.
He didn't know we was here.
We didn't have any sisters.
So you don't have any family left?
My mother, maybe.
Really?
But I haven't heard from her.
Yeah, you got a jug of water left. Just about.
No cousins or anything like that?
Well, I've never been close to my cousins.
Yeah. So what about friends? What about friends? I guess you'd want to look up the people that you were living with in the house, right?
Yeah. Those are the only ones that I would consider friends.
Yeah.
Most other people, it's about a dollar.
Yeah.
Can't deal with it.
So maybe you could stay with them then, wherever they relocated, possibly?
If they have the room, but they have quite a large family, and you know, I don't like the inconvenience of nobody.
Yeah.
I've done all
But everybody needs help sometimes.
But I've done all right on my own before.
Yeah. Well, all the best to you. You know, good luck to you.
I'll make it.
You're quite a survivor.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I've been in this life too many years now to talk about quitting.
That's right.
This isn't the first stumbling block in my life.
Yeah.
Just one of them.
Yeah, the storm was kind of mild coming in, and then all of a sudden it just turned what you would call rough. We noticed that the wind started blowing hard and shingles started flying off the roof on the other side of the building. And then from there it just got very serious, and we just hunkered down and waited until it passed. Oh no, I was watching TV. No, it was it would only pick up Channel 4 out of Baton Rouge. Since Channel 4 moved to Baton Rouge, they would only pick up them. So that's what. Yeah, that was on that pretty much, but I'd only run it for about 20 minutes at a time, twice a day. You know? Right. You know a lot of people suffering, and there's nothing that you could say that's going to relieve it or anything else, but oh, I'm coming back. Oh yeah, it's coming back. No, I believe everyone got out in time. There may be one or two people that might not have made it. But other than that, I think everybody else made it.
Well, we found somebody else here.
He thinks his sister may still be there, and that's kind of what he's waiting on. He wants some information on his sister.
They're gonna go check right now.
What's her name, sir?
Irene Dash. If she ain't there, you gonna come?
Irene Dash.
They may have got her out already.
not there, you wanna go and so we can help you find her? Cause they're gonna. She'll be at one of the shelters. We can get on there. We can go to the shelter. No, if she's not at her house, that means they may already took her out. Make you leave and not get none of your stuff. Sir?
I would like to see my daughter. My daughter ain't here.
She's in jail?
No.
She's in Texas, your daughter?
Yeah.
Well, what part of Texas?
Tell me you're on the other side of Dallas.
Well, guess what? Guess where one of the shelters is at?
Huh?
Guess where one of the shelters is at? Where they fly you to?
What?
Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Remember I told you we'd get you to
You
your
got
daughter.
family in Texas, we will get you to Texas. For sure. Without a doubt.
And remember what I told you.
You know your daughter's phone number? Because we got phones.
We can look it up on the information. But remember what I told you about electricity and all that, the gas? It's going to be over a year. It's going to be a very long time.
Mr. Paul, why don't you let us help you? We're going to help you.
What I'm going to do about my house, yeah.
We'll help you lock it up.
Oh, well, what I got to do? I got to do more than lock it up. I got to pay my electric light bill.
Well, there ain't going to be no electricity for about 6 months.
I don't think they're worried about your electric bill right now, sir.
They're going to have no electricity hooked up for about 6 months. No gas, no nothing. And the water, you can't even drink the water. The water's going to be messed up.
You ain't drinking the water, are you?
No, I can't.
And what happens is, wherever you go, when you get with your daughter, they'll give you some paperwork to help you take care of all that. It's a fact. And we can help you lock up and be safe.
I'd like to check with my sister.
Well, we sending somebody down there. If your sister's not there, do you want to go try to find her?
No, I can't go.
No, she'll be in a shelter.
Huh?
She'll be in a shelter.
What's your daughter's name again?
Got her own house back over there.
What's your daughter's name again?
Mr. Paul.
Donna Mary Williams.
Everything.
Donna Mary Williams.
Everything from.
Look. My daughter named Donna Mary Williams.
Donna Mary Williams.
Donna Mary Williams.
On the other side of
Donna
Dallas, what city?
Marie Williams.
You know what
Donna
city?
Marie Williams, right?
Donna Marie Williams in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
Other side of Dallas.
The other side. Do you know the name of the city?
Belfast won't get out. We can receive, but they won't get out.
So
You don't want to go till you hear from his daughter.
Mama got her number. And her mama stay on Birch Street, Birch and Monroe.
But your sister stays right a couple blocks over?
Yeah, right down there.
Okay, you understand, Mr. Paul, that the water went up everywhere. It was over the railroad tracks, so it was in your sister's house too, so they had to get her out.
She's probably not there, sir.
If she's not there, that means she's in a shelter.
What, you call that number?
Give me the name again.
482.
Donna Marie Williams.
Yeah.
Donna
That's my daughter.
Marie
That's his daughter.
Williams.
How far is that from here?
Huh?
How far is that from here?
Up here on Birch Street. Birch Street.
It's on the other side of the interstate?
Oh, indeed.
On the other side of the interstate right there?
Yeah.
He had enough.
How long has it been since you had something to eat?
I had something last night.
You did?
And I ate some grits and butter this morning. But I'd eat my grits cold. Damn it. My wood car wouldn't come on.
Yes. Your stove?
Yeah.
That's because there ain't gonna no gas. There's not gonna be any gas for at least till Christmas.
But they should let people know about all of that.
Well, that's why we're here. We're here to get everybody out because there's gonna be nothing. There's no food. There's no grocery stores. They're not gonna drop off no more food, no more water, no nothing. All the grocery stores have been flooded. Everything has been flooded. The whole city is almost deserted now.
The grocery store down there?
Everything. Everything in this area is flooded.
There's dead bodies floating in the water. Everywhere. Everywhere. Yes, sir. That levee broke. Did he tell you the levee broke?
Oh
The
yeah,
levee broke.
I told you, remember 3 levees broke.
In the water during the hurricane. The levee broke and the water came up. And there's no power.
I just found this gentleman, and he's reluctant to go. He's in a wheelchair. And I'm trying to talk him out. And he doesn't want to go, but hopefully he'll realize that he can't stay here. There's just nothing left, and he's just going to have to go and come back hopefully in a few months.
Dry ground.
He even changed his clothes.
You look handsome.
So he goes stepping tonight.
Yeah, look real good now.
I like that top hat.
Yeah, there's a store right there called JP Super Red, just a block before you get to Carroll. I mean, Air Hall.
Gonna lock your doors up right now, sir.
And I'll be back soon as I get in touch with Harold, and I'll keep an eye on the place.
You just keep your feet up, we'll do the rest.
Keep your feet up. We don't want you to get wet.
Let's try to sit them on the front part right there.
Well, it don't matter to me.
Sit them on.
Turn it. Yep. Count to 3.
Very good.
There you go.
Very good.
You comfortable like that?
All locked up, sir.
How's this one fold over, sir?
I turned the knob. Turn the little thing on there.
Hey, Rick.
Got another wheelchair in
We'll get you another one.
He'll be able to stand there. That's about all he'll be able to do.
I just keep this around the house.
There you go. We'll take that one, and then we'll get you another one.
We'll take this one for right now and get you another one. We'll put it in the boat.
They'll give him one that's foldable metal kit.
They give you a new one whenever we get you to land. We'll put that and then lock it back in your house.
No, that door right there.
That's your key?
The next door is locked.
Paul, what's your name? I'm sorry, what was it? Paul Williams? So how you feeling? You feeling okay?
We'll make it.
Dog here. It looks not too bad. It's amazing how they survived this. Well, this is the second body that I've seen since I've been here. Very tragic. Very tragic. Somebody tried to escape, obviously, and never made it.
You know, I've flopped hogs before and they didn't smell this bad. Batman's house. Yeah, but all that's house too.
New Orleans clay, right? It's sludge. Something like that.
It's just alluvial.
Drop it, you ready?
Yeah.
Everybody's spending money like crazy about FEMA coming. That's all I'm hearing. FEMA comes and all them, they don't pay for it.
Well, the Army's starting to move in now. This area is being checked house to house by the police and various departments around the USA.
There you go. He couldn't get in touch with anybody.
It's good, huh?
We set him up, gave him an office.
There you go.
Started making his calls.
There you go.
He was supposed to go up on a wiretap in Jackson when the storm hit. He couldn't find nobody. Of course, the whole building was.
Well, it's still there, but the guts are kind of good. No, we're good to go.
Well, if you talk to Philip, and he had talked to my head.
This is apparently the area where the barge hit the bridge and the levee and
What you need?
broke through and caused all of this water breach. This area is still quite deep. Now they have the Army trucks in, I guess, looking for survivors and or victims.
That's the car.
Really deep here, so amazing at this point, September 10th, that the water is still very, very deep in this area.
Give me a can of water out of Hank's boat. Hank, give me a can of water. A couple cans.
Just rescued this dog. He was actually stuck on the tracks out there.
Too much weight.
Really happy to see us.
Still ain't got to our destination yet.
Hey, what building is that? That's the school?
Oh my God. Here, just come over here.
Huh?
Let's see if I can get him. Come on.
Oh well. There's only one thing left to do.
Yeah.
Here.
Come on. Come get it.
Hey.
Come on. Maybe they just don't like that. Can you imagine not if you're that hungry?
Come on. Come on.
Yeah. Come on. Come on.
Ready to dump this and get out of here?
Well, we give him some bacon bits we found. And still a little bit skittish, but they're certainly happy to eat something. Oh, that's a girl. Just rescued this girl, little dog here. She's so happy. Come on. She is so happy, this dog, to be with somebody. Hello. Go get it. Go get it. Go get it. Go on. Go get it. Come on. Oh, she's a happy dog.
I'm Officer Jones of New Orleans Harbor Police Department. Been here, working here 4 years, and since since the hurricane hit.
So what?
Well, initially it was the mindset was rescue, which we did. Our agency did 195 rescues on the first day after Katrina hit in the lower 9th Ward, and after that became more protection of the personnel and the people around because of the looters and everything. So, and trying to basically public safety. Once we was able to get most of the people out of New Orleans, we were able to focus back on the rescue mission. And since then, which I guess has been primarily since Friday evening, Saturday morning, it's been rescue. I'd say 90% of the time by boat, and the rest of the time it's been by walking and on land. It was about 35 to 40 people, visitors from out of town. I think there were a couple of locals, but primarily they were from out of town, and it just so happens that you had Canadians, British, Australians, and they were stuck in the crosswalk that goes from the Julia Street area up to the 3rd floor at the Riverwalk, which is the food court. It's approximately, I don't know, 35, 40 feet off the ground. Well, these people, 35 to 40 of them, I don't know exactly how many there were, but they kind of established a community. They took care of each other, they watched over each other, they just kind of turned an eye every time somebody kind of go in there for looting or what have you, which was a good idea because they didn't want to be confrontational or anything. But initially I seen them, I believe it was Wednesday evening, and I went and seen them, and they were doing okay. Of course they were uncomfortable and they were probably running a little bit low on supplies, but they were always nice. Every time I showed up there, they always offered me food and water, which of course I thought that was kind of touching that they hardly had anything and they were offering me something. So one of the elderly ladies there had asked me if I would come back, and I gave her a promise. Once I gave her that promise, I guess I was pretty much stuck to it, because over the course of the next few days I'd always pay them a visit, and they had a couple people with some medical conditions, including an 11-month-old baby. And I tried to round up as much medication I could. Luckily, I think I guess if you were to think of a term of a hero, there was a ER nurse, an OR nurse, and a paramedic there. It was just absolutely fabulous. I got with them, they was able to give me information of what they needed, and I tried to get as much as I could. I showed up, I think, Friday evening, and I'd heard that the Canadians and the British were extracted out by a Canadian Special Response Team, which I was glad to hear that. So I think the course of 24 hours after that, everybody got out, which was really a good thing.
Yesterday.
Sure, of course, the first guy that we came across, kind of a funny story, because the only reason why he gave up and wanted to go is because he ran out of cigarettes. So I thought that was kind of a little funny incident there. The second guy, I'll never forget him. I won't disclose his name, but He lived in the Holly Grove section of New Orleans, and 81-year-old man. He was a single amputee, and he was wheelchair bound. He had numerous medications, plus he was insulin dependent. And for the most part of his experience, he was trapped in his house with water chest deep. And I told that man he's the most impressive. I was so inspired by him. It was so emotionally touching that it was kind of hard to maintain the composure. But 81 years old, he made it through it, and we got him out. We put him into a boat. He was able to signal a helicopter in the near vicinity to make a landing, and we extracted him out by helicopter. And hopefully, right now, he's enjoying a warm meal and kind of hoping everything's all right with him. So.
Yeah, he came out with a lot of dignity, and tell us about that he wanted to change his clothes and look good when he left.
Absolutely. You would think that the last thing that a person would think of when they're trying to leave a situation like that, especially being damp and wet and hungry, and especially with medical concerns, the last thing he would do is worry about his appearance. But he had so much pride and dignity that he asked us to let him change his pants. He changed his pants. We found him a clean T-shirt, nice clear, clean button-down white shirt with a collar and everything. And he put on a nice little top hat, and he was ready to go. He changed his socks, and to me, I couldn't fathom if I was in that situation, probably myself, I'd have been so ready to get out that you couldn't even assist me. I would have probably assisted myself in the boat. So, but he's just one incredible man. So I hope I get to see him again. So because his story was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, he was quite a man.
Yeah, people evacuated. I don't like to think of that they might have neglected their animals. I'm going to try it just for my own well-being. I'm going to think that they evacuated and they had no idea if they could, or they didn't want to evacuate their animals and get turned loose on the street because they couldn't evacuate them. So maybe they had the intent to leave them in their homes and they could make it back and then rescue their own animals. But there's quite a bit of animals here in New Orleans. Today was dogs, yesterday was birds, the day before was dogs and cats. They're all over the place. So hopefully they'll get back to their owners and maybe start all over with the owners, I guess.
But you did get a couple of dogs out today.
We did. Went through a little bit of water to get to them and climbed a few steps and tore down a few doors to get to them, but we did get to some dogs.
Well, John?
Oh, it would just be good for the Canadians or the British or whoever's living in Vancouver or wherever they're living in Canada, if they, I just wish there was some way that they just contact me, make sure that they made it home safely. I'm sure they did. I'm sure that the Canadian Special Response Team is more than capable, but just kind of...
And we go on dry land now. All the water's receded, and there's a really hungry dog that's starved for affection as well. Be a dog rescue operation today. Another dog over there. Really hungry and thirsty, these dogs. Water's just receded in the last, well, I guess yesterday.
Somebody's already been in here. The water line that's in here is over my head.
Through this sludge here, it's like, it's like thick oil or mud and oil. It's pretty amazing stuff. It's all over now. Every house has got a foot or two of that stuff in there. There was at least 6 feet, if not higher, in this area, so all kind of one-story buildings. I think it would be difficult for people to survive in this area. You got a thick sludge everywhere.
Soaking there. Hello? Reach this. Some big cats in there. There's like 2 dead cats in there. And, like 3 survivors.
Here, and likely it might get eaten by the stray dogs, but it's crying for its mother, that's for sure.
Besides the pit bull, what you got down there?
That's cleared out. I know on Caffin Street we have a dog that was locked behind a door that's out on the balcony porch. It was locked there. So.
Okay, now, yeah, we were going to stay right here, so if you find animals, just come back here and we'll get them. Or you can bring them back here and we'll take them from you.
Okay, so you all stay together then? Y'all want us to go get the animals?
Well, no, we're going to spread out, but you can bring them back here and leave them for us. Come on, baby. Oh, don't be afraid. Come on. Come on, baby.
Come on.
Come on, baby. Come on.
Well, there's several dogs in this block. It's amazing how they survived, considering the water was way up over, you know, almost to the ceiling in these houses. Oh, sweetie. Hello. Hello. Aren't you happy to see us? Aren't you happy to see us?
Oh, she's got it. I've got one.
All right, we're here with Alvy Baxton and with the Denham Springs Fire Department. And here it is, a little over a year after the Katrina disaster. And so in terms of what you've seen transpire and what's happening now, in terms of rebuilding New Orleans and certain areas, maybe Bogalusa, how would you kind of comment about that?
Well, it's depends on what area you go to, what degree they have really, how far they've come along. In Bogalusa, for instance, we were there for about five days, I think, and they had a lot of tree damage, you know, and house damage, things like that. Didn't have any flooding, of course. That's on up into the state, higher up than the, you know, more north than New Orleans is. And but they got in there and they just, all I can say is they got after it. My chief and I and our families, we visited the church that we stayed, where we stayed while we were cooking for them. We cooked for the community there. Captain Wheat, Melvin Wheat, with Denham Springs Fire Department, and some other guys. It was 5 of us all together, and we cooked for them for 5 days and kind of give them a little break because they needed this break for what, you know, trying to get their lives put back together. And anyways, like I said, my chief and I, we visited them probably about a month ago, and they're doing very well, and they are gracious people, and they're very hard-working people, and they're getting their lives put together, I'd say fairly fast now. As far as New Orleans, there's still a lot of devastation down there. The damage was on such a scale that, I mean, you just can't imagine it unless you go there, and then it still doesn't seem real. I also visited, I have a nephew that lived in the Lakeview area, and he's living in a FEMA trailer there right now, and he's trying to rebuild, and matter of fact, he's got his house going right now. And
he's building a new house on the same property?
On the same property. Except this time, it's going to be built off the ground. And he had, I think, 10 feet of water in his house.
Yeah.
And but he was lucky enough he got out, and he stayed with my mother-in-law and in Holden, Louisiana, and they came out very well, I guess you might say, with their lives. If they'd have stayed, you know, it would have been very bad for them. And I wish that a lot of other people would have had the sense to get out. But then again, you gotta think nothing like this has ever happened on this scale. Even with Betsy, back in the '60s, I can remember Betsy, and but it wasn't any kind of destruction on this scale. When I went and visited my nephew, that was about a month ago also, and as far as them, they're doing very well. They have a real good attitude. A lot of people down there has a good attitude. You know, hey, let's rebuild. Let's grab the bull by the horn. Let's pull together here. And you do see a lot of that. But I rode through a pretty good area there, a vast area, in some subdivisions that still, it's like a ghost town there. They have debris piled up in their front yards where they've been gutting their houses, you know, because of the mold and what have you. And they still got a lot of work to do. And I don't see them, I don't know how to gauge this because the destruction was so bad. And it's going to take so long to get, it'll never be back normal. I don't think it'll ever be back like it was. And but like I said, it depends on where you look. In the poor areas, of course, you still got more devastation there even now than you do in the
Because
better
because
off
it's taking longer to kind of rebuild in those areas.
Yes, it's like I said, it's on such a vast scale. When we were down there, it was like you was in a movie. You was on a movie set. You see helicopters flying through the high-rise buildings. You see fires, plumes of smoke from building fires in New Orleans. And at one time, I know I counted 22 helicopters in the air at one time. And it was just surreal. It was like you was in a movie set, but it looked like a movie. It didn't look like real.
I remember when I was down there with you guys, it was the same thing. It was, I remember staying in French Quarter, and it was so eerie because there was no electricity. And so here you were in this area that's usually very vibrant, and it was quite an eerie feeling.
Yes, that's right. I mean, it was like bombs were dropped. It was terrible. And especially in the lower areas, like the lower Ninth Ward, Lakeview area. And that was more due to flooding, the damage there in those areas. Now, the further east you would travel, you would see more wind damage, like going towards Chalmette or towards Mississippi. And we can't forget about those poor people over there. In Mississippi, they were totally wiped out along the coast. And so much has been emphasized on New Orleans. And,
Yes.
And I know why. I mean, it's a huge, it's a metropolitan area. So much business goes on there, so it's going to get the attention more than, say, like Bogalusa or Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Okay.
Things that, and it was, I call it the highlight of my career. I've been in the fire service for over 28 years now. And we were involved in the search and rescue involving some apartment buildings, three-story apartments. Well, we had a team. Our team consisted of probably, I would say, I think it was about 10 of us. And we were in small boats, and we would go from apartment building to apartment building. And most buildings, the water was usually covered the first floor, and it may be even higher depending on where the apartment was. And we went in this, we came up to this particular building, and it had an old man up there, and he hollered down to us, and we asked him, was he okay, and he said yes. And this was probably, I'm going to say at least a week, maybe even more, longer, after Katrina had passed through. And we asked him, is he ready to come out? And because a lot of them, this was the only home they knew. And it was hard for them to leave, not going to understand that. They want to protect their possessions, what little possessions they had, especially in the poor parts. And this was an apartment building for older people. And anyways, they were holding out as long as they could. They were starting to run out of water and running out of food. No electricity, no running water, no sewage. Everything was it was nasty. It was terrible. Everything it was real hot. Just, even in September or latter August and early September, it gets very hot in South Louisiana. So we asked him, was he ready to leave? And the gentleman said, yes, I'm ready to leave. He's had enough. We asked him, was there any other people in the building? He said, yes. There was probably, I really can't remember the number now. I would estimate there was probably about 25 or 30 people left in that particular building. and like I said, it was all elderly people. So we came up to him. He was on the third story, and we went up to their level, and we asked him where the other people were, because he wasn't seeing them anywhere. And they were real to their self type people. And as a matter of fact, we asked him to come along with us to help us find or to search for other people, and he wouldn't do it because that's just the way it was. You know, they were very to themselves. And so again, it was like a movie. When we started our search, and we had police with us, and they were there to protect us, and we had our own police bodyguard. We had our own bodyguard, Patrick Knapp. He's a police officer from Denham Springs. And so anyway, we went from door to door, and what we would do, we would bang on the door and ask if anybody was there. If we didn't get an answer, we would just bust through the door. We had tools like battering rams and things like that, axes, and we would bust through the doors and we would search the apartment. And so we'd go from one to the other. And we came upon this one. I remember Frank Murray and the other gentleman, he was a volunteer that was with us from St. Francisville. I can't recall his name now. But they busted the door open. And when they did is they hollered, "Is anyone here?" Well, they didn't hear anything. So they went to searching the apartment. Well, then they heard a faint groan or something. I'm not sure exactly what they heard, but it got their attention. So they went to the bathroom, and this old lady, she was 80, I think she was 82, 8 years old. Her name was Miss Ernestine Sims, and I'll never forget her. When we went in there, she had fell sometime either during that morning or during the night before. She had slipped and fell and got wedged between, and it was sweltering hot. It was terrible. And so anyway, we went there, and we had a Channel 4, WWL Channel 4 news crew out of New Orleans that was tagging along with us, covering our rescue operations. And anyway, we stopped them from going in the bathroom because it's a private thing. Yeah. And but they were filming, and anyways, we got in there. We had to figure out how to get this lady out, and she was rather large. I would say, I don't know how many pounds, but she was very large. So we had to be real careful because we didn't, older people in their 80s, they're susceptible to break a hip, and that could be very dangerous for them. And or their bones were fragile at that age. So we had to be very careful and didn't know if she had broken anything or what was broken or what. So we asked her the usual questions, where do you hurt and all this. Well, we wound up, we had to dismantle the toilet. We had to take it off the floor and set it to the side to be able to get her out, because we couldn't drag her out because she hurt so much. Matter of fact, she threatened to hit me a few times.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, "Miss Ernestine, if you can, if it makes you feel better, you just wail away." So, anyways, she was really a sweet lady, and she was a real trooper, I tell you, for what she had been through. And so we got a blanket and rolled under. We rolled her back a little bit and got the blanket under, and used it as a cradle to pull her out, and then we could pack her out. So we got through the door and was heading to the area where the boats were at. And like I said, she was a very large lady, so we had to be real careful. We had to let her down for probably about 8 or 10 feet to the boat. And there was no way to airlift her out, so we had to put her in the boat so we could evacuate. And in the meantime, we were evacuating others. And so anyway, we finally got her in the boat. And we took off to, it was on, I think it was on I-10, somewhere on I-10. We would use the on-ramps and off-ramps for boat launches. And so we went to this particular one, the closest one. And we got to the ramp, and we had a, I think he was with the Harbor Patrol, New Orleans officer. And,
was this John?
No, this wasn't John. This was actually before John.
Mm-hmm.
I think John came along like the next day or so. So anyways, we were sitting there in the boat, and me and another guy was holding a blanket over Miss Sims, because it's, like I said, it was very hot, no shade where we were at. We was giving her water. Poor thing, she drank water. She was getting dehydrated. And so we were sitting there waiting for an ambulance to come. And we asked, we'd already called for one through the officer. And we was waiting. We also had some guys from New York that came down to help us. Eric Salisbury, his family's been in the fire service for, I think, said 5 generations. Yeah. And they wanted to come help him, and his entourage from New York came down, and we made, friends with them. Anyways, Eric was with me, and as a matter of fact, he was helping me hold the blanket up. Well, he was getting irritated. I don't know if that's the way people are in New York, but he was getting very irritated. And so he's wearing a blankety blank is that ambulance. So
it's a different thing in well, of course, in this situation, it must have been difficult, but I guess.
Well, the stress is building.
Yeah, and in larger cities like New York, you may find that you have a few minutes. And
right.
This, of course, was very unique.
Yeah, I don't mean to pick on New Yorkers, because I've visited them since then.
Yeah.
I really love them. They're nice
Oh,
people.
yeah.
They can't cook too much. Now, Eric and them can cook, but most New Yorkers don't know how to cook. But that's another story. But so anyhow, we were sitting there waiting on the ambulance. Well, Eric, he's getting irritated, and he asked that officer, "Where in the heck is the ambulance?" He said, you just don't understand how it is in the big city. And he said sometimes in normal conditions in New Orleans, somebody might be shot and bleeding to death in the middle of the street, in the middle of the city, and it might be a couple hours before the ambulance gets there, in normal conditions. So you can imagine what we were facing. Well, when we were coming to that location early that morning, there were ambulances lined up and down the interstate. There were fire trucks. There was all kinds of equipment lined up and down the interstate. And we knew there were ambulances out there. We were waiting for the ambulance to come out. And they, like I said, this was getting to be a long time coming. So Eric, he asked, I can't remember his name, a guy from St. Francisville.
Just keep looking at me.
But anyway, Eric asked him, he said, "Isn't that your truck over there?" He said, "Yep, sure is." He said, "Well, come on, we figured could take us a ride." So they got in his truck, took off, wasn't, I'd say maybe 20 minutes had gone, maybe, and here they come with an ambulance. And previously I talked about that officer said you don't know how it is in a big city. Well, here come Eric with an ambulance. He had a doctor aboard. These people were from, I think they were from San Diego, and she had a 3-person team with her. They had all the equipment necessary and everything, and they come over there, and I looked at that police officer. I said, "Now that's how we do it in the country."
Yeah.
I always called Eric Cowboy after that, because
yeah.
I mean, look, he got on that horse and rode and got some help,
Yeah.
So this was probably one of the most emotional things that ever happened to me in my career, because man, it was just hands on right there. I mean, it's like something you'd see in a, in a movie, to me. And to help a person in that way, to know that probably if she'd have gone much longer in that house, dehydrated as she was, she'd have probably died that day. I believe that.
Yeah. And I remember when I was with you guys and you were kind of knocking down doors and stuff because the previous searchers maybe would yell out and say, you know, fire department and police department, but they wouldn't actually go in. And if you hadn't actually gone in there, a lot of people would have been, you know, a lot of people died because nobody knew they were inside.
Right. And what was another bad thing about this is the people wouldn't leave.
Yeah.
So you'd have to search the same areas over and over and over. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think this particular apartment building had been searched about 4 or 5 times already. And sometimes people just wouldn't leave. But this particular day, they done had enough. They were ready to get out.
Yeah.
Because they was going to die.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Get sick, it was going to die.
They realized that there was nothing left, and they wouldn't be able to survive if they'd
Right.
stayed there.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you know, you don't really realize how much something like that affects you until a little later on, because you all caught up in the moment, you know. And we had some professionals come by sometime after that and doing some group therapy. And when I went through that, it really was a big.
It hit you.
Oh yeah. And after I was through, it was like a weight was lifted off. You know, I didn't realize how stressed I was until I went through that. But after, you know, through 28 years, you think you callous to most anything you can come up on. And but this was really something special here.
Well, thanks for telling that story. It was a pretty amazing situation. I'm sure that none of us will see again.
Well, and it was also amazing in that there was so many people involved, so many entities involved, and it didn't all come together just right. But people were really working hard to try to help them in New Orleans. And I have to say that we had a great leader, Captain Melvin Wheat. He was the leader in our group, and he did so much to get things going. He would get the resources together, and we were helping him, you know, in the best ways that we could. But he took the reins, and as our mayor said later on, he was like John Wayne. And
Yeah.
he was quoted as calling him John Wayne. and he was. And
Yeah.
I'd say that he was voted Fireman of the Year.
Oh yeah, well, certainly deserves it.
Oh, he deserved every bit of it and more.
Well, I remember when I met him last year. I met you, Melvin. I think I don't know. I sent you my journal and everything, and I kind of thought of you as kind of like Clint Eastwood from one of the westerns, you know. Yeah, that's the only way I could think, with the handlebar mustache and everything. But you know, I remember Cliff, when I first talked to Cliff, he said the same thing. You know, that Melvin just kind of organized everything and took charge, and I guess that's what somebody needs to do in those situations. You know, you can't play around. You gotta.
Right.
You got to deploy everybody in the proper way, and I think that's what happened with maybe the problem with FEMA and everything, because nobody really took charge.
Well,
I don't know if that's your opinion, but
they squabbled amongst themselves so much, and we had none of that, not a minute.
But we worked together, and he would organize everything. We pull in right behind him, and I mean, we were like, atoms and molecules just joining together
That's
to form something. Midnight. We would call ahead of the time on our way back, and we would tell them what we needed. And I'm gonna tell you what, they had everything we needed ready to go that night. We'd load back up that night to get ready to go back the next morning. And we'd leave out well before daylight every morning.
Hey, the guys that stayed here were just as important as the guys that went.
Oh, yeah.
If it hadn't been for them, we would have been going.
So it was a team effort.
Oh, yeah,
Sure. Team effort,
so
yeah.
many people pulled together. And you can't thank our administration enough neither, because they gave us everything we asked for. The Mayor Jimmy Durbin, and the council. Anything from fuel to food to first aid supplies to, I mean, anything we need. We needed hip waders and hip boots and to wade through the nasty water. And they went to sporting goods places, and they had to go to several to get enough for us.
And I recall that you had those boats too that you went in that were donated.
That's what I was fixing to say. Cliff's uncle bought those boats and motors.
Rusty Mayu.
Rusty Mayu?
Mayu.
He bought those boats and motors. They're in the middle of all this.
Yeah, he's from
Fort Worth, Auburn. One of our firefighters here, his uncle from Fort Worth, Texas, bought the boats and motors and had them sent here. Cliff went and picked them up from the dealership, brand new. And we docked them up at what they did. While we were gone, they were working on boats, putting our stickers and stuff on them for us to go back the next morning with. But that's the reason we were so popular too. When we drove up, we had 14-foot boats. The biggest boat we had was 17 foot.
What's that big? I don't think that big.
Well, we had yours one day and Calhoun's one day. Figured out they were too big right off the bat. And then we stayed with 12 and 14-foot boats. We had 4 of them on one trailer with motors stuck everywhere. But that's the reason we were so popular when we drove up to Harris Casino. They knew who Denham Springs Fire Department was, because all the other boats there were 22-footers with 250 motors, 175 motors on them. They couldn't get anywhere near where we were getting to. At all, wouldn't you say?
Yep.
So the chief Bayard there knew who we were when we drove up. He would pinpoint us out of the crowd, and we would set somebody at a post with a radio, and then from there on, some days we set 15 minutes, some days you may sit an hour to get your deployed out to where the area that you was going in. And then we would get in sometimes before dark, sometimes after dark.
This is Melvin Wheat, the captain of the Denham Springs Fire Department, and Melvin, last year when I went with you guys on rescue operations, well, here it is now, over a year later. And can you give me your thoughts about what's transpired since then? And I know in this area it wasn't affected as much, but what are your thoughts about what's going on in New Orleans and different areas right now?
In New Orleans, there's a lot of work going on. Some people are coming back. Looks like it's about 90% white the last time I was there and 10% black. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. You have good in both and bad in both. A lot of the people that are in Houston and all over the United States, some of them's going to come back, some of them's not going to come back. The mayor's, not the mayor, the governor's doing an incentive plan now. The road home, I believe is the name of it, giving upwards of $150,000 to families to bring them back. That's good, that's bad. We're going to have to pay for it in the long run, taxpayers are. We're going to have to pay for a lot of the things that happened down there with the storm. We already know that your insurance premiums are going up. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But we're being, I won't say held liable for it, for the storm, but we're going to pay for it. FEMA's stumbled quite a bit on everything. Our own local agencies, I mean LSU, stumbled. Some things there that I don't understand is how they are our icons for a disaster such as this, and they dropped the ball, and people from other states came in and ran the LSU program. I had problems with all of this stuff. To me, that's nothing to do with what's transpired since the storm has happened. It's still in, they're saying it may be 10, 20 years before New Orleans is back. And when you go down there, you're going to see that. When you ride through with your camera, you're going to see it's still block after block with nobody living there. And probably will never ever come back at all. It was a learning experience for us because of what we went through with wildlife and fisheries. Went through it with NOPD, Harbor Patrol, and then when FEMA come in, it was like flipping a light switch, it was over with. But FEMA came in way after everything was done too, when they should have been some of the first in. What does FEMA stand for? They should have been the first ones in the door before military and anybody else. That didn't happen. It was a long, drawn-out process. I'm sure it's going to be a learning process, but the way politics work in Louisiana and the United States, it's going to be the same thing over again. It's going to be a struggle for who's in charge.
And
the next time, people are going to get out. Just like when Rita came into Lake Charles, people got out. There was no lollygagging around, and the government was on top of it then. They had buses, whatever you needed at disposal to get everybody out. And next time, that's what will happen. Probably be a mandatory evacuation. I don't know what the law is on mandatory now, but then mandatory meant they could not get you out. Even though they said mandatory evacuation, they did not forcibly make you leave your home. From now on, I'm quite sure that's what's going to happen. By saying that, I meant that we will never see it happen for us to have to go down there and do that again. That was a once-in-a-lifetime deal. And we happened to be at the right place at the right time, and we took the initiative to go down there. You know, but as far as us having to go through another storm, we're going to see more hurricanes, there's no doubt at all. But I don't think we'll be run like this is ran at all.
as a smaller fire department outside of New Orleans, you're about 70 miles away?
Yeah, about 70 miles.
So you don't think in a future situation you would be called upon?
I don't believe so.
No.
I would be, and the reason I'm saying that there again, there should not be any people down there.
Yeah.
We went strictly for the people.
Right.
The people should be evacuated.
Right.
This should be a learning experience big time for the next 100 years, Paul. That you have no choice but to evacuate.
Right.
1,000 some odd people died. I don't think they'll let that happen again.
No.
They shouldn't.
Right.
That did, and by saying they shouldn't put us in that spot again where we have to go back and do it at the same time. Anyway, we went to the firemen's camp. Pulled up in there, went to the first building, and that was from Maryland. Walked in there and told the guys, hey, we're from Denver Springs, we're doing search and rescue, blah, blah, blah. Do you have anywhere we can take a bath, maybe sleep or whatever? And the guy just looked and said, you can sleep right there on the floor if you can find a spot. This is in the foyer where people were on cell phones, doing this here, main lit up entrance to the building. And I just looked at him kind of funny and said, hey, bud, we can sleep in the truck. So we came from Harris Casino. I said, we can go back over there and sleep. He said, well, that's about all we got. No problem. And they didn't make me ill. It's all you got. It's all you got. So my guys wanted to get a picture of the truck that Louisiana sent to New York. It was there out in front of the building. So we go over there, and I'm taking pictures of them and stuff. Here comes a golf cart by. And there was two guys in it. Well, they stopped, wanted to know what we was doing. And we told them, so we're doing search and rescue. So there's our trucks over here. We had the boats and stuff all on the back of them. He said, where y'all from? And we told him. He said, hang on. He said, did you stop at that building? I said, that's the first place I went. He said, no. He got on the phone, made a phone call, and the Suburban come around and picked us up. Put us in the Suburban, took us back to that building, gave us cots, gave us 2 bedrooms with air conditioning. See, they had a generator backup over there. And had all this here at our disposal. They fed us supper, fed us breakfast the next morning with hot coffee. And told us that if you want to come back, said we will always have a place for you to sleep. Appreciate what you're doing. Fine and dandy. Turned everything back into them that morning. We go back out for a few days. And now's when I made this phone call. I called the guy at LSU. Well, I made my phone calls to 3 or 4 people that I know. As I told you earlier, one does not want anybody to know that he gave me the phone number. He gave me a direct number to this guy that was running the whole show. He was from New York. Introduced himself as Chief Kling or King or something from New York. So anyway, I described to him what we were doing. We were doing search and rescue out of 10, 12-foot boats in New Orleans. The water was getting too low. We was going to 4-wheelers now. If you have any kind of 4-wheelers, I know that the facility over there has some mules that they run around on. Could we get one of those, commandeer, whatever we had to do to take 4-wheelers back with us? And he asked me, explain to me what you're doing again. So I go through, I'm Captain Melvin Wheat, Denham Springs Fire Department. We're doing search and rescue. We've been down there X amount of days. We're with the NOPD and Harbor Patrol. We're not affiliated with the fire departments at all. We're working out of Denham Springs. And that's when he told me to cease and desist what you're doing immediately. And I said, it's not going to work. So we had a few words on it. Anyway, he said he would redeploy me out. I said, no, this is not going to work. Anyway, we had a few choice words on it. Turned the phones up. About 3 days later, I would say, or 2 days later, we're back in New Orleans working. It's dark, it's hot, we're sweaty, and some of them make the suggestion of going to the firemen's camp to get a room. And that's when I told them, boys, it may be bad blood over there.
So that's the night that I went with you.
Right.
To the
Okay,
camp.
that's what I told them beforehand. I said, y'all may laugh at me, you may not, but I'm going to tell you, it may not be good feelings when we get there. And that is how it was. We drove up. Alvin and them stayed by the trucks. Me and Patrick and Rick Westerman went to buy that Louisiana truck again. First I went over to the tents that they had set up, giving out clothes and flashlights and all this kind of stuff, and I asked for these chiefs that had put us in the motel the first time in the golf cart. And the guy said, I don't know who you're talking about. And I described him, and he said, well, you sound to me like you're talking about Teddy Roosevelt, like that. And he was real sarcastic about it. I said, no. And we got Denham Springs Church, which I had a bulletproof vest on with 45 here. Rick had his weapon on him. I know Patrick had his. And the guy kind of got cocky there, so we said, okay, no problem. Don't know what I'm talking about. We go to the Louisiana truck again, kind of standing there. Well, lo and behold, here comes the golf cart, and the guy had his foot up like this and was on the cell phone. When he pulled up and they stopped, was talking to somebody. So I made it my point to go to the golf cart. Put my hand up here on the top rail. He looked up at me one time like that and went back to talking on his phone. He finally got off the phone and said, hey, how you doing, Melvin Wheat, Denham Springs? Said, you remember me? No, not really. And the whole time now, Alvy and him's on the radio. Melvin, can you come over here? Melvin, need you over here. You know, okay, just a minute, we're coming. So I asked him, I said, we're the ones that came over the other night and spent the night. You told us to come back any time that you would have somewhere for us to stay. He looked over and said, well, y'all make me sleep under them trees over if you want to. So now I got the right vibes on. Well, Alvin and him still going, Melvin's, yep, we're coming. So that's when I told the guy, I said, ain't no problem. So we'll go sleep in our truck back where we come from. Then we get over there, and what was the guys trying to do to y'all?
They were just asking us all kind of, I didn't think it was strange questions in the beginning, but we found out later after the fact that they were grilling us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were trying to find out who we were, where we're from, why we're there, you know, and I mean, they were interrogating us.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know this till after
Right.
he told me what happened.
Yeah.
We waited up in the crowd, and Patrick wasn't too friendly with anybody. I wasn't too friendly with anybody. And we're packing weapons already. So they started easing away and getting away from us. And that's when I told them, I said, let's get in the trucks and go back to Harris Casino. And that's the last time we visited the firemen's camp.
But the night that I stayed with you, that was a different night then.
We slept in the trucks?
No, because remember...
You had done left by that time.
Okay, so this is after because you stayed there twice, you said?
The firemen's camp?
Yeah.
We slept in trucks one night there.
Well, because the night I was...
that particular night.
Yeah.
The night I was with you, they gave us rooms, remember?
Okay, well, you was with us whenever they treated us good.
Oh, okay. Because I remember that night,
Me and you slept in the same room
they told you...
to come back.
No, they told you that night that they didn't have a place for you.
Right.
And then you had to go find somebody else.
Right.
But that's the story about when you talked to
Right.
the New York fire. Was he running the...
That was afterwards now. The night we
Yes.
stayed in the room,
Mhm.
the fire department, the phone call to LSU was after that. Because I had done bragged to these
Oh, the
guys
phone
about
call to
having a
LSU
room.
was after that.
Right.
Oh, I see.
Because I done bragged to them about us staying in this air-conditioned room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's why they was wanting to go to the firemen's camp. We're
And
gonna
then
go-
they wouldn't let you stay there again.
We were
That was
expecting
terrible.
the real camaraderie of firemen together, the
I
brotherhood
would
of
think.
firemen.
You would think, yeah, because
You know, and
because
that's what I would expect.
They were
You
real
would
Let's
think.
trade
Yes.
stories and, you know, things like that.
Matt. It just looked to me like it was set up, but it could have been a scare type tactic because we was all packing weapons. We were the only firemen packing weapons. We do know that. When we walked around the fire camp, these guys was wide-eyed and looking hard because we got fire department on and we got bulletproof vests on, and
Well, you know,
and we did kind of walk around like we was cocked walk now.
well, you know, I guess in the northern states you just wouldn't do that, but in the south here maybe it's a little different.
Nope, martial law.
No, because it was martial law.
It was martial law. Martial law means anything goes.
So because it was martial law there, but nobody else had guns.
Nobody else had access.
Oh.
Nobody else knew. We were informed right off the bat, if you got a weapon, bring it.
Oh, I see.
Nowhere from here, so.
Okay.
They were easily
Self-preservation.
accessible.
When it comes to something like that, it's strictly self-preservation.
Because it was martial law.
Martial law.
But you know, even the Vancouver Fire Department, remember they had a drive, a fun drive after 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you said, mentioned, you have a camaraderie
Right.
with fire departments, you know, in North America and all over the world for that matter, right?
Right.
It seems to be the case. So it must have been a very
You always get bad.
a bad blow, certainly you know, disappointing to be treated
Right.
like that.
Especially during what was going on.
Especially during a disaster.
Right. You're at my house.
When
even though we was in New Orleans,
you
you're
don't
at
need
my
to have
house.
politics when there was a disaster.
Right. That's
Is that
exactly
right?
about what it was politics.
Yeah.
And
And
the same
somebody
thing-
somebody thinking they're above everybody else.
Right.
And they should be running the show, and
Yeah.
then you're not really important.
And I probably didn't help us out none at the tent city either, because I stepped on a big guy's toes there.
Did you?
Yeah, from LSU. Right across the road, because he was there all decked out, real clean and pretty, and we come in that night, we was filthy, dirty. I'm hot. I ain't mad at nobody, but he's sitting here with a bunch of dignitaries, all in suits and stuff, and said something to me, and that's when I just looked at him and said, explain to me what happened. He said, what you mean? I said, y'all slipped and fell. I said, you're my leader, you're my teacher. You've taught this for years. You slipped and fell and you're not even at your post. Somebody else is running the state. Somebody else is running LSU. And he just don't like his serious. Said, you're right. He said, you run slap overs. I said, that's what I see happening. They'll run slap over y'all and even have your desk. As far as I'm concerned. Couldn't say nothing back to me.
Yeah.
And like I said, I wasn't doing it out of spite or out of meanness. I wanted an answer to my question. What happened? You've taught this. You know who I'm talking about. They taught it for years and they slipped and stumbled. And but now, another thing I guess is states up north know how to get, and will be stupid with it, free money. Because I'm quite sure everything that they used down there and they did, they got reimbursed more than once.
Well, they have certainly access to huge amounts of funding that
Right.
you don't have.
Right.
Is
Is
that-
they had clothes, man. They had 18-wheelers with pants and stuff in it. Tires for trucks. I got up in one of them. I mean, nozzles, master stream devices. All this stuff was there. Now, whether they're going to get reimbursed for it or get grant money for doing it all, I don't know this.
Could you tell me also,
One of the instructors at LSU was up there. We went to Palestine Baptist Church, which is in Bogalusa, and we were going to cook for 50 people, and it wound up being close to 500 people a day. And we fed 3 meals too, 7 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and 4 o'clock. So when we started the 7 o'clock meal, we were already cooking dinner for the 11 o'clock meal. 11 o'clock, we were cooking for 4 o'clock. And by the time we got our pots and stuff cleaned up, would be 7-ish in the evening time, get us a little break, and then at 2, 3 o'clock the next morning, we were cranked up cutting sausage and stuff again. The church had electricity, but all the surrounding area didn't have any electricity. One little lane there had it. We stayed there, it was either 5 or 7 days, left from there, came back here, and Hurricane Rita had come in then. That's why we left from there when we did, in such a hurry. When what I did before we went there, when they called us, I went to Winn-Dixie here in Walker, where the Red Cross was set up, took my truck and trailer, and got 2 pallets of food. That was canned food, restaurant type style or lunchroom style food. Just one can would feed 10 people, I'm guessing. Red beans, rice, white beans, vegetables. And then when we got up there, they had a warehouse set up at this church. They would all get stuff prepared to cook, and we cooked and fed, like I said, an average of 500 people a day. That went on for 5 or 7 days. Hurricane Rita started coming in. And when she came in, we immediately came back here, stayed here, I'm going to say 3 days, and they sent one group to Lake Charles to do search and rescue, which there was no search and rescue there. Those people had sense enough to get out. They were gone. So these guys stayed around 24 hours in Lake Charles and turned around and came back. And then a couple of days later, Patrick Knabb, which is an undercover detective here in town, and Sheriff Willie Graves, which is the sheriff of the parish, got a hold of us and wanted somebody to come down there and cook for his SRT team, which is a special response team. They were doing night maneuvers in Lake Charles for coverage of the city at that time. And I picked Albie Bankston out to come go with me on that trip, and we stayed down there again a week, but all of that was nighttime activity. We started cooking breakfast around 6:30 in the evening. We had dinner around midnight, and then really had supper the next morning, type food. The good thing that happened on that was it was only wind damage there. A lot of rain, but mostly wind damage. No electricity anywhere. Wasn't anything like New Orleans with waist-deep water and stuff. We were set up at a school, and I don't even remember the name of the school. Albie may know it, in Lake Charles. It was a magnet school. Anyway, Calcasieu Parish was in one part of the school at the gym. We was in another part. And like I said, no electricity, and the school workers would come in a few days. Well, we fed some of them some breakfast or supper one morning, because everything was night and day. And they was coming in and checking the coolers in the school. And they left one of the coolers open, and one of them told me to come here and look at what we have in here. And we go into the cooler, and this stuff is still just like you walked into a cooler in the back of a big store like Walmart or something. Nothing was hurt. And so they gave us access to that cooler. From there on out, we had fried catfish, we had chicken breast, we had, I don't know how many dozens of eggs, cases of eggs to cook. So from that day on, and they had a slushy machine that they showed me how to use. From that day on, we ate like kings. We fried fish, we had red beans and rice, we had smoked chicken, in the whole 9 yards. And we was there for a week, left there, and came back.
So Melvin, you also mentioned to me that there was 80% of the trees were fallen from the storm up in that area in Bogalusa.
Oh yeah, it was bad. Some of the people, according to the people that when we got there, it took them a couple of days just to get out of their driveways. And it was that bad there. I don't know if you've been back since you've come back or you're going back up there.
I don't know, yeah, I'm not sure if
There was so many trees that the sawmills won't even consider taking at all. So anybody that had a little groundhog mill or something like that was in like Flynn, but you can only cut so much. The rest of it's waste. And what they're doing with it now, I don't know, because the pine beetles are done setting in, and it's just wasted. But it devastated Bogalusa. Like I say, Bogalusa was left out of the gap. Everything was concentrated on New Orleans and Lake Charles and all that, and Bogalusa was really just as bad. People were up there without electricity, food, and water for a while. Like I say, when the Walmart trucks would come into Walmart, they definitely had military there to keep anybody from messing up. They had the parking lots was full of clothes where people just come in. I'm talking boxes of clothes in parking lots, and you'd see people out there going through clothes and stuff to get what they could wear. And like I say, we was there 7 days, 5 to 7 days, something like that, and worked at that church there. Then left from there, went to Lake Charles, did our cooking there, and then now we're going to a nighttime, which Bogalusa was night and day too. We was up half the night cooking and preparing to cook for the next morning. Lake Charles was a strictly nighttime, try to sleep during the daytime. This is generators running everywhere and 98 degrees in the shade. They did have us a shower style set up there where we could get a shower in a Quonset hut. Then we left from Bogalusa, came back here, and immediately went to North Park and cooked for the same SRT team there for 4 or 5 more days. So altogether we was around a good month of hard manual labor, good work, but it's a once in a lifetime deal that I don't think we'll ever see again in our lifetime. Not on that scale at all.
So Melvin, you mentioned to me that in this situation again, Denham Springs Fire Department probably wouldn't be involved because of
I think the government's going to come in and won't have any little. We was more like jacklegs or I wouldn't call it hooligans, but we went out on our own and did what we did. We got in contact with the right people, and it all just fell in like fate. Everything fell into place. We met the right people at the right time, and we just continued on from there, and it never did stop. When we got to New Orleans, we went in with Wildlife and Fisheries. We stayed with Wildlife and Fisheries every bit of 2 days. Then from Wildlife and Fisheries, we got in with NOPD, and the way that happened was, I don't know, did we tell you the whole story about going to Chalmette?
I don't think so.
They sent us to, we left from here, telephone and started calling around. I got in touch with Wildlife and Fisheries. What started that all out was first, right after the storm, we went to Slidell.
Right.
Got to Slidell, went to a fire department in Slidell to help out, and they were mostly looked to me like overmanned. They had too many people standing around doing nothing. And there was a Wildlife and Fisheries truck sitting on the side, and this guy had been there a little while. And I'm here, and I had some volunteers from West Feliciana Parish with us. We had another fireman or two from here, if I'm not mistaken. And so anyway, we standing around talking to the fire chief and all this. He's trying to hunt something for us to do. So I eased over this Wildlife Fisheries truck and leaned on it and asked the guy, I said, man, what you doing? He said, I need some help. I said, well, look for volunteers to go out in boats with us to do rescue. Hang on. So I went over and told our leader then was Frank Murray, which was a volunteer at that time. And he went to the chief. We go back to the Wildlife and Fishery guy. Well, guess what? We all had something to do. We met at a rendezvous point in Slidell. They had airboats, big center console boats, and such as that. And I'm going to say it was around 10 or 12 boats. So we wound up putting in on a road called Spanish Lake Road, or Old Spanish Trail Road. We put the boats in the water there, and went across Lake Pontchartrain, went under the Rigolets Bridge, went to past Highway 11 Bridge, and stuff was floating in the water, and you would think it would be bodies, which we've seen a few bodies, and we had to paint the bodies, and you tried to tie them off to something, hook them to a post or whatever. But most of the things you'd see in the water was Jack Cavell fish. And you could see them a long ways off floating. It was that and neutral rats. Neutral rats were down there by the hundreds. But everything was a ghost town. No people nowhere. You killed the boat, hollered, screamed, they got on the loudspeaker, had the sirens going, nobody at all. Did see a horse on the second floor of an apartment complex. I wished I'd have took a picture of it. Didn't take a camera with me that day. But boats, the tail end of 20 some odd foot long boats would be 2 stories high, sticking out of the edge of a house and stuff. That was everywhere, cars in the water and all that. So we stayed there for around 8 hours. We did rescue a few people off of a big barge. And Wildlife and Fisheries absolutely think that this was some poor people that was living in a trailer park that waited on these rich people to leave and come out, and they took a boat and got on this barge. Because we'd been all around this barge all day, and went out and came back, and before we went out that evening for the final run, they stuck their head up and went to waving a white flag and stuff. And so we get back there that evening to the landing, and they wouldn't let any boats in the water. People now are coming out of the woodwork, but they had a dozer pushing cars and houses and stuff off the road just to get us down here. So we was the first ones in the water. We came back that night, and this guy gave me a lady's phone number to call, and his name was Captain Runners, which was a Wildlife Fisheries agent. I called this lady in Baton Rouge. She set me up with the connection in New Orleans. We left the next day or a couple of days later, went to Tangier Mall in Gonzales at 4 o'clock that morning. There was boats there from Illinois, Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, just almost every state you can name. We walked around and looked at tags on the back of the boats. Was you there with us that morning? It was unreal, from everywhere.
And what date would this have been?
Ooh, good question. We've got it all written down.
Maybe the 3rd or 4th of September?
This was like 3 days after the hurricane.
Yeah.
Was all. Then there was a line of Wildlife and Fisheries agents, and I'm nosy. Easiest way to put it. It was all lined up, having a little speech given to them, and I could see nurses over there. That's when I went up and said, well, what are we doing here? And the nurse said, well, this is an inoculation shot. I said, y'all had y'all? I said, I don't know. What you giving? So she named off the shots they were giving. I said, is this only for Wildlife and Fisheries? She said, this is for anybody going to New Orleans. Which we had our handhelds, and I got on the radio and called my guys, and we all got shots that morning, which was a good thing before we ever went.
Probably hep shots and
hep shots, shoot hepatitis, tetanus shots, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, we leave from there and went to Clearview. This is a convoy going to Clearview in New Orleans. We get there, they want any vehicles that's 4-wheel drive, which we had, so we was in with a separate group now, with airboats and stuff. We left from there, and by now, I'm going to say it's 10-ish o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock, we're going to Chalmette. We went by Algiers, by the West Bank, which is crossing the Huey P. Long Bridge. New Orleans is here, circling around New Orleans and coming into Algiers and going into Chalmette off of Highway 90, Chef-Montier, if I'm not mistaken. And we're driving through water and all this stuff. We get down there, and it's bodies in vans beside you and all this. The mud's 6 to 8 inches deep on the road. And we set up triage with Shreveport Fire Department. They come in, had big tarps put on the ground. They had machines, air-cooled machines to cool people off with big fans and stuff to run off of generators. And we stood around there for an hour or more, and nobody knew what was going on. There was a perimeter there, and then there was another perimeter that you had to go through, wildlife and fisheries agents, to get into Chalmette. After a couple of hours of sitting there, then the wildlife and fisheries agents come back and said that our services were no longer needed, that Sheriff Harry Lee had confiscated all the buses that was going to bring the people off the roof of the houses that were still down there. Well, Margene, who was with Shreveport, a chief up there, fell out with the Reds and went to the first perimeter point. They would not let him pass it. Now people are backing into the water anywhere with airboats and stuff, trying to get them in the water to get to Chalmette because wildlife fisheries would not let you in. They wouldn't let us even drive in boats just to hand water or throw water up to them on the roof of the houses and food. They said nobody would go past the second perimeter. So now we're stuck. We were promised fuel to get back to Clearview or back here. So now the wildlife and fisheries guy has done told us we don't need you, you can turn around and leave. So we're sitting here, I'm trying to figure out how to get fuel. I go to Shreveport guys because they had a couple containers on their truck and I explained the situation to them. So they gave us, I don't know, probably 10 gallons of fuel to get us back to Clearview. Chalmette's a pretty good ways from Clearview. So we fueled up. Again, the wildlife fishery guy comes by. And he said, look guys, we done told y'all to leave, we don't need your services. And that's when I told him, I said, well buddy, I don't know how to get out of here. Y'all brought us in here in a convoy. I said, I don't have no idea where I'm at. I said, we came back ways, we came through red lights that wasn't working, you came down streets that were one way, the opposite way. I said, I'm gonna be honest, we're lost. So by now we done had enough of it, and we load up, start heading out, and made our way back to Chef-Montier Highway. And there was a guy standing there with a high-powered rifle with camouflage pants and a brown shirt on. We pull over. His name was Gus, right? We pull over, and I hollered at him, said, you want some cold water? Or one of us did. Or want some water? And he said, is it cold? Yep, it's ice cold. Made us a friend right off the bat. He was with NOPD. He had been down there through the hurricane and after the hurricane. He hadn't heard from his family or seen anybody. So we were standing and talking with him. Here comes wildlife and fisheries now. And we're 20 miles from them, I'd say, or 15 miles. They pull up now and they got an attitude. We done told y'all to leave already. No, let me back up. That was after the fact. While we're talking with this guy Gus, an unmarked vehicle comes in and there's 2 NOPD police officers. Their family was down in this subdivision, the water's right here next to the road, questioned us what we was doing, and we told them we just got turned around. We was trying to get back to Clearview, didn't really know where we were going. They said then, well, can we confiscate one of your boats to go in here and check on my grandma or my auntie? Sure enough, you got it. So they was backing the boat in the water. At that time, that's when the wildlife and fisheries came up and told us, the guys, we done told y'all to leave already. And that's when I told them, I said, you see the 2 guys standing there, which they had badges on their belt. I said, they've confiscated everything we got here, trucks, boats, motors, and all. And the only thing the wildlife and fisheries could do then was just looked at us and said, be careful, and turned around and drove off. From that point on, we stayed with NOPD. They directed us to a Captain Bayard, who was at Harris Casino. That's where the command center was at that point. And we reported to him that same day. And he started putting us out every morning to go different grids all over the city. When you come into Harris Casino, you have pictures of that? You took some
Yes.
footage of that, right? All the food that was set up there was coming in. The people that were cooking, that little line, that didn't have a whole lot of food to eat. Remember, we had little hot dogs, and you may be lucky to get a hamburger with an onion on it. That guy owned a bar room on the Florida-Alabama line. He's one of the ones that's been forgotten about completely. He put X amount of dollars into all that food that he brought down there. And when FEMA came in, they shoved him to the side like that and sent him back to Florida.